Chapter 71. 3 months from now. The Battle of Life and Death. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous and powerful, shocking the surrounding people. This kid is crazy. He actually wants to challenge Zhang Qian. Ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. Who does he think he is? A peerless genius. The surrounding people shook their heads, and the people following Zhang Qian laughed wildly. Kid, you have guts. You actually dare to challenge me. Zhang Qian's eyes were full of disdain. Fine, I'll let you live for 3 more months. 3 months from now, I will torture you to death in front of everyone. F***CK. Zhang Qian actually accepted the challenge, and it's a battle of life and death. The surrounding crowd was boiling. Lin Xian's eyes didn't have the slightest trace of emotion. He had confidence in himself that 3 months from now, he would definitely win. Thinking of this, Lin Xian ignored the gazes of the crowd and left the cultivation pagoda with Yi Qing. After Lin Xian left, the news instantly spread throughout the inner court. Almost everyone was laughing at Lin Xian's arrogance, and there were even some people who predicted the miserable state Lin Xian would be in 3 months. Lin Xian, you are too reckless. Zhang Qian is a rank 8 meridian condensation stage cultivator, and he often goes out on missions, so he has rich combat experience. You still dare to challenge such a person. Yi Qing didn't believe that Lin Xian could reach rank 8 meridian condensation stage in 3 months and couldn't help but secretly worry for him. Don't worry, senior sister. I know what I'm doing. Lin Xian was very calm. After bidding farewell to Yi Qing, Lin Xian returned to his small courtyard. Today's battle was just a small interlude. He knew that this day would come sooner or later. As long as he comprehended the first level of the Seed of Sword within 3 months, killing Zhang Qian would be as easy as flipping his hand. His greatest gain was that within the spiritual space, there was no external help. He relied on his own strength to fight, and his strength was displayed to the limit. Even after Lin Xian returned to reality, the virtual battle was still able to be reflected on his body. Lin Xian couldn't help but admire such a method. In the path of the sword, when the sword art was practiced to perfection, a trace of sword force would appear. The sword force was divided into beginner, small success, great success, and perfection. After the sword force was the sword intent. When they were in the outer sect, Lin Xian, Jiang Yulong, and the other sword moves were only at the entry level, so they could not exert much power. But now, Lin Xian had a seed of sword intent in his body. As long as he comprehended 10% of it, he would be able to trample most people under his feet. According to his estimation, the power of sword intent he could exert now was merely equivalent to the initial stage of sword force, and it could be said that he hadn't even touched the surface of sword intent. Tomorrow, he would go to the cultivation pagoda again and try to comprehend it as soon as possible. Lin Xian made his decision. The next day, Lin Xian was walking alone. When the inner sect disciples saw Lin Xian, they would point at him and whisper to each other. To this, Lin Xian just laughed. He went straight to the 3rd floor of the cultivation pagoda, found an empty room, and walked in. Sitting cross-legged on top of the array, Lin Xian once again entered the spiritual space. For 4 days, Lin Xian spent 2 hours in the spiritual space. Now, he had passed the 4th stage of the Meridian's condensation 7th stage. Rumble. The bronze door slowly opened, and Lin Xian walked out with a thoughtful expression. He didn't have much time left, and he had spent 10 hours in the spiritual space. With a thought, he went to the management office of the cultivation pagoda. He wanted to ask how to obtain the time to use the spiritual space. The person in charge of the 3rd floor was a deacon in his 30s. When he heard Lin Xian's question, he replied expressionlessly, "There are a total of 3 methods. The first method is to buy with spirit stones, 1,000 low-grade spirit stones for 2 hours. 1,000 low-grade spirit stones." Lin Xian's eyes widened. He finally understood why Yi Qing had that kind of expression. This was too damn expensive. What about the other two methods? Lin Xian asked. The deacon looked at him indifferently, but continued. The second method is based on the ranking on the stone tablet. Depending on the ranking, the time will be different. The third method is to exchange battle merit points, 100 battle merit points for 2 hours. So, it's like this. Lin Xian understood. He couldn't obtain these 3 methods in a short period of time. It seemed that he could only use other methods to cultivate. He left with some disappointment. At this time, several disciples looked at Lin Xian's back and laughed sinisterly. That person is Lin Xian. He actually dares to oppose big brother Zhang Qian. Shikuan, go teach him a lesson. A slightly chubby youth laughed. I haven't fought in a long time. Let's use this kid to practice. The chubby youth named Shikuan chased after Lin Xian with a smile. Behind him, several other youths followed at a moderate pace. Junior brother, please wait. A voice came from behind Lin Xian. Following that, a white and chubby figure appeared in front of him. What's the matter? Lin Xian looked at the chubby youth in front of him and asked, I wonder if Junior brother is interested in exchanging pointers? The chubby youth said with a smile, if you win, there will be a lot of prizes. Oh, exchanging pointers? Lin Xian glanced at the Xinwei group's symbol on the chubby youth's chest and revealed a smile that wasn't a smile. What prizes? Can we bet on the time of the cultivation pagoda? Cultivation pagoda time? Shikuan's chubby face suddenly froze. What kind of joke was this? This guy must be crazy. Junior brother, you don't know. The time of the cultivation pagoda is tied to the person and cannot be transferred. Lin Xian shrugged. Then I'm not interested. After saying that, he was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Shikuan flashed and blocked Lin Xian's path. Junior brother, don't be in such a hurry. I don't have the time of the cultivation pagoda, but I do have other good things. Shikuan tempted. For example, some materials. Do you have materials that can repair the soul? Lin Xian asked indifferently. Chubby Shikuan was about to go crazy. Who was this kid? Why did he ask for such precious materials? If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't fight here, he would have beaten him up long ago. No, Shikuan's expression was very unnatural. I don't have anything. I'm not interested. Lin Xian turned and left. Shikuan was almost anxious. He said that he would teach this kid a lesson, but this kid didn't fall for it. In the inner sect, if you wanted to fight, you had to fight in the arena. There were a total of 2 types of arenas. One was the exchanging pointers arena, where no lives were allowed. The other was the life and death arena. Lin Xian and Zhang Qian's battle in 3 months would be in the life and death arena. Hey, junior brother, wait. Shikuan cursed in his heart, but he still called out to Lin Xian. Okay, 500 spirit stones. Lin Xian turned and said. Shikuan hesitated. 500 low-grade spirit stones wasn't a small amount. Agree with him. The other disciples transmitted their voices to him. Okay, 500 it is. Shikuan gritted his teeth. Little guy, wait until we get on the arena. I'll beat you up. Lead the way. Lin Xian was delighted. How could he refuse to get 500 spirit stones? Soon, the group arrived in front of the exchanging pointers arena. Exchanging pointers was very popular in the inner sect. Not only could it increase one's strength, but it could also bring good luck. It could be said that many disciples were obsessed with it. Lin Xian and Shikuan's exchanging pointers undoubtedly attracted the attention of the crowd. Hey, this kid only has a cultivation of the 6th level of the meridian condensing stage. He actually wants to exchange pointers with Shikuan? He was probably cheated by Shikuan. What an unlucky kid. The nearby disciples murmured. Some sympathized, some mocked. In their eyes, Lin Xian was a deceived newcomer who could only be abused. Chapter 72. Shikuan, and the rest looked at Lin Xian worriedly, afraid that he would run away. What made them feel relieved was that Lin Xian's face was calm and did not have any reaction. Humph, this kid looks stupid. He actually dares to challenge senior brother Zhang Qian. He must be tired of living. Shikuan's companion sneered. Don't worry, I will teach him a lesson. Shikuan's face was cruel. Junior brother Lin, how about I spar with you? Shikuan asked. Lin Xian deliberately thought for a while, and then said, Okay, I hope senior brother will show mercy. Shikuan waited nervously, afraid that he would not agree. After receiving Lin Xian's reply, Shikuan's fat face was full of smiles. Humph, I will show you my power in a while. After finding an empty stage, Shikuan and Lin Xian walked up. Immediately, the surrounding inner sect disciples surrounded them. Too stupid. This Lin Xian actually went up. Doesn't he know that Shikuan is a Meridian Stage 7 cultivator? This Shikuan is Zhang Qian's subordinate, and Lin Xian provoked Zhang Qian. I am afraid that he will be crippled before the 3 months of life and death battle. Below the stage, there was a lot of discussion. On the stage, Shikuan sneered, Kid, you dare to offend senior brother Zhang Qian. Just wait for your death. What? You are Zhang Qian's subordinate? Lin Xian pretended to be surprised. Ha ha! A group of Xinwei group disciples laughed loudly, looking as if their evil plan had succeeded. Okay, you have seen what you expected. Hurry up and start. Lin Xian's original frightened expression disappeared and was replaced with calmness. What do you mean? Shikuan and the rest had a bad feeling. Lin Xian's change was too strange. What I mean is, I was just playing with you. Also, thank you for the 500 spirit stones. A layer of golden light appeared under Lin Xian's feet as he suddenly used the phantom thunder steps. He turned into a golden lightning and disappeared from where he stood. You 6th leveling, my brat. You dare to talk big? Shikuan pulled out a top-quality sword and formed a sword wave around his body. F***CK. This Shikuan is really cautious. Even when facing a new disciple, he still chose to defend first. Many disciples recognized that sword technique. My water ripple sword ripple is an absolute defense. Even a cultivator of the same level as me would not be able to break through it. After he appears and attacks, I will counterattack. Shikuan instantly thought of a way to deal with Lin Xian. Shikuan's idea was very good, but he encountered Lin Xian. Ka ka ka. A crisp cracking sound rang out. Everyone looked over in shock. They saw that a hole had been forcefully torn open in the blue sword wave in front of Shikuan. A golden thunderbolt was wantonly destroying it. Impossible. How could this be? Shikuan's eyes were wide open. How could a 6th leveling my brat break through my defense? Before he could think, a white palm imprinted on his chest. Golden thunderbolts instantly crawled all over his body. An intense numbing pain caused Shikuan's body to constantly twitch. Then he fell to the ground, losing the ability to resist. In one blow, Shikuan was completely defeated. This is the #1 new disciple. Such terrifying strength. When did the new disciples become so strong? I'm looking forward to the life and death battle in 3 months. Lin Xian's strength shocked everyone. This seemingly weak youth's attacks were as fast as thunder. 500 spirit stones handed over. Lin Xian said to Shikuan's companions. Several people unwillingly handed over the spirit stones and then quickly dragged Shikuan away. They wanted to quickly tell Zhang Qian that Lin Xian was more terrifying than they imagined. Lin Xian walked down the stage and found that everyone looked at him differently. In fact, this was a very normal thing. The strong were respected. This was the rule of this world. The inner sect of the Black Heaven sect was no exception. After obtaining the 500 spirit stones, Lin Xian was in a good mood. He hummed a tune and left the battle area. In a luxurious courtyard, several disciples of the Xinwei group were whispering to Zhang Qian. Shikuan was one of them. You're saying that this Lin Xian is a rare thunder attribute cultivator and can fight above his level? A blue-robed youth beside Zhang Qian asked. Yes, Shikuan said with lingering fear. His thunderbolts are very powerful. After coming into contact with them, I won't be able to use any strength. You guys are very considerate. This is a bottle of recovery pills. Take it and use it. Zhang Qian's face was calm after hearing this. After Shikuan and the others left, the blue-robed youth said, It seems that this kid isn't that weak. Maybe we can play with him. Humph, he's just an ant. Zhang Qian's eyes didn't have a trace of emotion. After a while, I'll be able to break through to the 9th level of the meridian condensing stage. At that time, my goal will be to become a core disciple. Hearing the words core disciple, the blue-robed youth's eyes flashed. He chuckled and said, It seems that this mission, your luck isn't small. Without the cultivation pagoda, Lin Xian's cultivation speed slowed down. He urgently needed pressure to stimulate his potential. Therefore, he found Yi Qing and asked her if she had any good cultivation places. When Yi Qing heard that he needed pressure to stimulate himself, she looked at him strangely. What a madman! For cultivation. He's so desperate. No choice. Between me and Zhang Qian, only one can survive. Lin Xian said helplessly, Your craziness is very similar to Senior Brother Luo. Yi Qing curled her lips. Senior Brother Luo? Lin Xian remembered that he had a senior brother who was also under Instructor Morong. What kind of person is this Senior Brother Luo? I've never seen him before. Lin Xian curiously asked, Come with me. I'll take you to a good place. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Yi Qing mysteriously said. Lin Xian, with a face full of doubt, followed Yi Qing out. The two were very fast, and soon arrived at the inner circle of the sect where the spirit beasts were raised. Why did you bring me here? Do you want me to fight with these spirit beasts? Lin Xian was even more confused. Stupid. Yi Qing rolled her eyes at him, then found the deacon in charge of the spirit beasts and rented a spirit crane. Hey, Junior Brother Lin, quickly pay up. Yi Qing urged. How much? Lin Xian asked. 500 low-grade spirit stones. What? Lin Xian stared at the spirit crane, then helplessly handed over the spirit stones. He found that in the inner sect, spirit stones were spent faster than water. Come up. Seeing Lin Xian hand over the spirit stones, Yi Qing smiled. This was a rank 1 spirit crane, the same level as a rank 1 demonic beast, which was equivalent to a human sea of soul realm cultivator. This spirit crane was dozens of feet long, and on its back was a small house which was very well fixed. Lin Xian entered the small house, saw Yi Qing activate the token, and the spirit crane spread its wings and flew up. Where are we going? I'll take you to see Senior Brother Luo. Yi Qing said, While I'm at it, I'll also introduce you to a good place to train. That's where all the crazy people gather. A good place to train? Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Is there a cultivation pagoda? Pretty much. And it's even more interesting than the cultivation pagoda. Yi Qing mysteriously smiled. Chapter 73. Misty City, the largest city in Yunzhou, was extremely prosperous. Lin Xian and Yi Qing landed when they were still 20 miles away from the city gate. The spirit crane flew back to the sect by itself, while Lin Xian and Yi Qing walked towards Misty City. From afar, they could see the black city walls of Misty City. They were more than 100 feet tall, and the entire city wall was made of obsidian, which was extremely hard. In front of the city gate, there were 2 rows of heavily armored guards. Each of them had an unusually strong aura, which was far from what Lin Xian and the others could compare with. Lin Xian estimated that the strength of these guards was around Meridian Stage 8. If they were in the Black Heaven sect, they would be ranked in the top 30. Of course, This did not mean that the disciples of the Black Heaven sect were weak. After all, there was a huge age gap between the two sides. The disciples of the Black Heaven sect were all 16 or 17 years old, with unlimited potential. On the other hand, these guards were around 25 or 26 years old, which was almost 10 years older than the disciples of the sect. Misty City was not only powerful, but the entrance fee was also shockingly expensive. Lin Xian and Yi Qing paid 300 low-grade spiritual stones to pass. Once they entered, the surroundings became lively. Half of the people coming and going were martial artists. Among them were disciples of the sect and wanderers of the Jianghu. There were countless of them. "Follow me." Yi Qing pulled Lin Xian towards the center. In the center of the city was a huge palace that went straight underground. On the side, there was a tall stone tablet with 3 big words written on it: Martial Arts Arena. Lin Xian realized that the people who came in and out were either cultivators with high cultivation or disciples of wealthy families. Ordinary people would not come here at all. "Do you have a martial arts battle token?" A guard in a blood-red robe stopped Lin Xian and Yi Qing. The aura on his body was stronger than the guards at the city gate. "We don't have a martial arts battle token, but Luo Qingshan is our senior brother. If there is any fee, just put it under his name." Yi Qing was very familiar with it. It was obviously not his first time here. "So, you are young Master Luo's fellow disciples, please," the guard said with a smile. "Looks like senior brother Luo is quite famous." Lin Xian was even more curious about this senior brother that he had never met before. That's right. Not only is senior brother Luo an inner disciple of the Black Heaven sect, but he's also a member of the 4 great clans. It's said that his clan owns the Colosseum, so it's very useful to announce senior brother Luo's name here. Lin Xian was surprised. He didn't expect senior brother Luo to have such a powerful background. However, he soon felt relieved. This would only benefit him. This basement was also a place to rest, but the people here were obviously a level higher than the people above. "Hoodlum, where's senior brother Luo?" Yi Qing said to a young manager. "So it's Sister Yi Qing. Wait here, I'll help you call young Master Luo." The young man called Hoodlum quickly disappeared. Lin Xian and Yi Qing found a comfortable place to sit down. Soon, there were beautiful maids bringing in food and drinks. Yi Qing lazily leaned on the recliner and grabbed a spirit fruit to eat. Lin Xian looked at the screen on the wall. On it, 1 red and 1 blue cultivator were fighting fiercely. Although he couldn't feel the aura of the two, but from the strength of the spirit energy released, Lin Xian could roughly judge that the two were both at the 7th level of the meridian stage. However, they were much stronger than ordinary disciples like Shi Kun. The use of spirit energy and the precision of the moves were praiseworthy. Lin Xian's eyes flashed with a light, as if he had forgotten everything. At this moment, a handsome-looking young man quickly walked over. The young man was around 17 or 18 years old, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. His body was surrounded by a faint light, as if he was a god of war. The young man didn't deliberately release his spirit energy, but the light around him was still dazzling. "Junior Sister Yi, why are you here?" The young man's voice was very calm. "Senior brother Luo." Yi Qing, after hearing the voice, happily jumped up. "Instructor Morong recently accepted another disciple, so I brought him over to see—" "Oh, I have another junior brother?" Senior brother Luo laughed. "Lin Xian, come over and greet senior brother Luo," Yi Qing shouted. However, Lin Xian, as if he didn't hear anything, was staring at the screen. This scene made Yi Qing pout, and she couldn't help but want to slap him. "No worries." Who knew that senior brother Luo would stop Yi Qing's actions and then walk over? Chapter 74. Luo Qingshan walked behind Lin Xian and curiously stared at the fascinated youth. "Red team or blue team? Who do you think will win?" "Red team," Lin Xian subconsciously said, Although the blue team has the upper hand now, it hasn't caused any substantial damage. The long period of attack has consumed his spiritual power very quickly. On the other hand, the red team is advancing step by step. I believe that they will soon counterattack. Lin Xian's voice was not very loud, but the people around still heard it. Among them, there were some warriors who disagreed. They had bet on the blue team to win, so of course they would not believe Lin Xian's words. After Lin Xian finished speaking, he suddenly reacted. He looked back and found a youth standing behind him. Lin Xian, you are too fascinated. You can't even hear me calling you. Quickly greet senior brother Luo, Yi Qing said snappily. The youth in front of him was actually senior brother Luo. Lin Xian was amazed by the dazzling aura around Luo Qingshan. He cupped his fists and said, Lin Xian greets senior brother Luo. This youth is actually Luo Qingshan's junior brother. Many people nearby looked at Lin Xian a few times. At this moment, the battle situation on the light screen changed. The red team seized the blue team's mistake and quickly counterattacked and won the game. This result made the surrounding people look at Lin Xian in a new light. Some of the warriors who bet on the red team were naturally happy, but those who bet on the blue team fiercely stared at Lin Xian. Boy, it's all because of your big mouth that I lost so many spirit stones. Someone angrily stood up. Don't blame others for your bad eyesight. Lin Xian sneered. That person saw Luo Qingshan standing behind Lin Xian and did not dare to say more. He could only curse a few times and then angrily sit down. Is that so? I also lost spirit stones, but I don't think my eyesight is bad. Instead, I think your mouth is too cheap. Why don't you slap yourself? This voice stunned the surrounding cultivators. Who was this guy? Why was he so arrogant? Even Luo Qingshan's face darkened. Lin Xian's analysis just now was very reasonable and not nonsense. In addition, he and Lin Xian had just acknowledged each other as martial brothers, and immediately someone came looking for trouble. He was afraid that this person did not come with good intentions. Sure enough, after the voice sounded, a young man in a blue robe stood up. Beside him were several guards in black, standing respectfully. It's actually Ling Zhe. Some martial artists recognized the blue-clothed youth. Luo Qingshan also frowned slightly. This Ling Zhe was also a disciple of the Black Heaven sect, and he was also a disciple of the Ling family, one of the 4 major families. His status was similar to his, and the relationship between the 2 families was not very good. Why aren't you slapping him? Do you want me to do it myself? Ling Zhe sneered. He had just lost some spirit stones, which made him very unhappy. More importantly, he had a good relationship with Zhang Qian, so he naturally recognized Lin Xian. Now that he had a chance to humiliate Lin Xian, how could he miss it? Lin Xian stared at the blue-clothed youth and felt the aura of the 8th level meridian condensing stage. He smiled faintly. Dare I ask this friend, who the F***CK are you? It's fine if you don't have good eyesight, but you're also so petty. You're still not convinced after losing? Lin Xian's words carried a trace of mockery. Echoing in the hall, the surrounding cultivators did not come back to their senses for a long time. Even the blue-clothed youth, Ling Zhe, was stunned for a moment, but then his face was filled with viciousness. Brat, you're courting death. Ling Zhe crushed the wine cup in his hand. Whoosh! A black shadow shot out from Ling Zhe's side and attacked Lin Xian with lightning speed. It was accompanied by a shocking wave of heat. Crackle! A fiery red palm slapped towards Lin Xian, and the terrifying heat directly melted the surrounding tables and chairs. This black-clothed man's attack was very sudden and swift. No one could react in time. A scream sounded, and in the next moment, Lin Xian disappeared from where he stood, leaving behind only a few golden arcs of electricity. The black-clothed cultivator did not expect that his palm would miss, but before he could react, a glowing palm grabbed him, and the terrifying strength caused him unbearable pain. Not good. The black-clothed cultivator's face changed, and he looked at Luo Qingshan with some fear. "Get lost!" Luo Qingshan shouted angrily, pushing the black-clothed cultivator away and quickly looking in another direction. 30 feet away from him, Lin Xian's figure appeared. "Junior apprentice brother Lin, are you all right?" Yi Qing's face was pale with fright. "I'm fine." Lin Xian smiled, but his eyes flashed. If he had been a step slower, he would have been a dead man. He would not cause trouble, but he would not let go of anyone who provoked him. "Lingzhe, you've gone too far. Don't you know the rules here?" Luo Qingshan shouted coldly. "Sorry, this subordinate is new and doesn't know the rules." Lingzhe said casually, "Apologize to young Master Luo. Young Master Luo, I don't know the rules. Please forgive me." The black-clothed cultivator said, respectfully. From beginning to end, Lingzhe was talking to Luo Qingshan, and Lin Xian was ignored by them. "Lin Xian, don't be rash. Lingzhe is a disciple of the 4 great families, and the power behind him is huge," Yi Qing whispered, "and he has a good relationship with Zhang Qian, so you have to be careful." No wonder. Lin Xian suddenly understood. Although he was angry, he knew that if he fought here, he would not be able to walk out. The most important thing now was to improve his strength. With strength, even the 4 great families could be trampled under his feet. "Senior apprentice sister, do you have spirit stones? Lend me some." Lin Xian asked. "Oh, I do," Yi Qing said. Even Luo Qingshan looked at Lin Xian in surprise. He was really afraid that Lin Xian would fight here. If that happened, it would be difficult for him as a senior apprentice brother. "Junior apprentice brother Lin, if you want to use spirit stones, I have some here," Luo Qingshan said. 5,000 low-grade spirit stones. "Is that enough?" "It's enough. Thank you, senior apprentice brother." Lin Xian took a purple crystal card and sat down. During the whole process, he treated Lingzhe and the others like air. "Humph," Lingzhe snorted. He was furious. This Lin Xian's actions were beyond his expectations. First, he was able to dodge that fierce palm strike. Then he was able to watch the competition as if nothing had happened. He had a feeling of being ignored, and this feeling made him crazy. "Brat, if you provoke me, I will make you wish you were dead." Lingzhe suppressed the anger in his heart and began to think about how to deal with Lin Xian. On the other side, Lin Xian asked Luo Qingshan some questions about the competition. Because it was a virtual competition, there were no restrictions. However, one had to pay 100 low-grade spirit stones to participate. Other martial artists would place their bets, and different martial artists would have different payouts. After Lin Xian heard this, he found that the rules were very simple, so he decided to give it a try. Before the competition, there would be information about both contestants on the screen, such as their cultivation and participation records, so that other martial artists could place their bets. The next match was between 2 pulse condensation stage 8 martial artists. Lin Xian was not in a hurry to place his bets, but carefully observed the competition. He had just arrived and was not familiar with these martial artists, so he wanted to take this opportunity to observe. Finally, after a few matches, Lin Xian decided to fight. Chapter 75. The thin 7th-level meridian condensing martial artist that he favored was the martial artist that he predicted would turn the tide of the battle. This martial artist's name was Wu Ming, and he was still on the red side. His opponent was a martial artist named Feng Zheng. 500 spirit stones on Wu Ming. Lin Xian placed his bet. Although it was Lin Xian's first time placing a bet, his previous performance still attracted everyone's attention. Humph, what an ignorant guy. Does he really think he can see through these martial artists with a single match? Someone disdainfully said, "This Feng Zheng is a martial artist with 10 consecutive victories. His 72 path opening wind palm is invincible. I bet 1,000 spirit stones on Feng Zheng," the martial artist said loudly. After saying that, He looked at Ling Zhe with a fawning look. Ling Zhe nodded with satisfaction. Lin Xian, right? I'll make you lose so badly that you'll be stripped naked. Lin Xian didn't say anything else. After placing his bet, he leisurely leaned back in his chair and tasted the wine. This wine was brewed from spirit fruits. Although the spirituality was thin, drinking more could strengthen one's body. Should I also get some spirit wine to drink? Lin Xian thought of the spirit wine brewed by Lord Alcohol. Whether it was the effect or the taste, it was excellent. Hey, junior brother Lin, are you sure you can win? Yi Qing worriedly asked. I bet a lot of spirit stones with you. Don't worry, I guarantee you'll make a lot of money. Lin Xian was very confident in his vision. As a swordsman, it was very important to observe the opponent. Lin Xian had seen the matches of these two, so he was very clear on their weaknesses and strengths. That was why he was so confident. Not long after, the match began. As soon as the match started, the blue side's Feng Zheng fiercely attacked. His large hands were covered in a fierce green light and were as fast as the wind. The red side's Wu Ming could only defend. Good. This opening wind palm really lives up to its name. Many martial artists cheered. Luo Qingshan elegantly drank his spirit wine and faintly asked, Junior brother Lin, aren't you going to compete? There's no rush. Let's familiarize ourselves with the situation first, Lin Xian said with a smile. While we're at it, we can win some spirit stones from the Ling clan. Luo Qingshan was stunned. Then he smiled bitterly. It seemed that Lin Xian was still going against Ling Zhe. However, this was also good. He had long found Ling Zhe an eyesore. This time, he might be able to use this opportunity to suppress him. What do you have in mind? Even when Luo Qingshan was sitting down, there were 5 golden halos covering his body. It was as if a god had descended into the world. Senior brother, why don't we… Lin Xian suddenly sent a voice transmission. Yi Qing saw the two of them acting so mysteriously and couldn't help but snort. She rolled her eyes at the two of them and then looked at the light screen with concern. After all, she had also bet a lot of spirit stones. After half an hour, Wu Ming of the red team successfully counterattacked and won the game. Yay, yay. Yi Qing happily jumped up. 1-3 ratio. I can win a lot of spirit stones. She cheerfully clapped her hands and cheered, attracting everyone's attention. The cultivator, who had originally made the bold statement, had a dark expression on his face. He wished he could go up and kill Hong Fong himself. Damn, what windbreaker. You're just a piece of trash. Ling Zhe's face also darkened. He had lost to Lin Xian twice in a row. This was simply unbearable for someone as arrogant as him. Who's next? Ling Zhe asked impatiently. Nie Tian of the Zixia sect and Bai Ji of the Blue Feather sect. Their strength is about the same, the black-clothed cultivator beside him said. Ling Zhe's eyes flashed. He didn't believe that Lin Xian could still win this time. Let's see who that brat bet on first. Ling Zhe waved his hand. Go find me 2 maids. Not far away, Lin Xian looked at the 2 people on the light screen and pondered for a moment. He chose Nie Tian. 1,000 spirit stones on Nie Tian. Lin Xian said. Whoosh. After hearing this, many cultivators followed suit and bet on Nie Tian. I bet on Bai Ji. Ling Zhe suddenly said. 3,000 spirit stones. As expected of young Masterling. He's so generous. I believe in young Masterling's judgment. Some cultivators followed Ling Zhe. Ling Zhe, who was holding a beautiful maid in his arms, said with an evil smile, in the past, their strength was indeed about the same. However, Bai Ji has made a breakthrough recently. I think it won't be a problem for him to defeat Nie Tian. Hey, how did you figure it out this time? Yi Qing asked. I didn't. I just guessed it. Lin Xian shrugged. I've never seen them compete. I've only seen their competition records. Betting? It's only interesting if there's a winner and a loser. You Yi Qing clenched her teeth in anger. She had bet all the spirit stones she had just won. May the heavens bless Nye Tian, Yi Qing kept murmuring to the side. On the light screen, Nye Tian's left leg was suffused with a blue light like a gust of wind. His right leg was as red as fire. Two different types of power actually existed in the same person. On the opposite side, Bai Ji, who was wearing a silver mask, shook his long sword, which emitted a cold light. The surrounding air was almost frozen. Wind, fire, godly kick, ice sword technique. The two of them used their strongest moves right from the start. Dazzling light overflowed, sword chi crisscrossed, and the surroundings were destroyed beyond recognition. Everyone stared nervously at the light screen, unwilling to miss any detail. In the end, Bai Ji slashed 13 times in a row. 2-meter-long sword chi danced in the air and buried Nye Tian's figure. Ha ha, as expected of Bai Ji. His ice sword technique is really amazing. Ling Zhe played with the beauty in his arms and laughed impudently. Those martial artists who bet on Bai Ji's victory were also full of excitement and kept flattering him. However, before they could carefully savor this feeling of victory, the situation on the light screen changed. Nye Tian, who was covered by sword chi, suddenly burst out with powerful spiritual power. The two types of power, green and red, each formed a semicircle and intertwined with each other. They actually broke through the ice sword chi. Bang! Bai Ji was kicked away, turned into white light, and dissipated. The result of the competition had a shocking reversal. Those people still had smiles on their faces, but their expressions were as dull as wooden chickens. Ling Zhe's mind also went blank for a moment. He couldn't understand how he could make a comeback in this kind of ending. Could it be that today was his unlucky day? Damn. King luck. Ling Zhe went crazy with anger. He heavily caressed the girl in his arms, his eyes full of anger. The maid's eyes were full of tears from the pain, but she didn't dare to resist. He won. He actually won. Yi Qing almost couldn't believe his eyes. He gave up on that kind of ending, but he didn't expect to win. Was this guy lucky, or just lucky? Yi Qing couldn't help but look at Lin Xian, only to see the latter stroking the purple crystal card in his hand with a cunning smile like a fox. This junior brother Lin is really amazing, but he can really cause trouble. Yi Qing tilted his head and thought. In the next few matches, Lin Xian could always predict accurately. The 5,000 spirit stones he borrowed had been paid off, and he even earned 3,000 spirit stones. It's about time, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Luo Qingshan nodded, then called his subordinates and gave instructions. Everyone please pay attention. The next match is very interesting. One is a mysterious newcomer who hasn't participated in a single match, and the other is the winner of a 10-match winning streak, Qi Ju. The odds are 1 to 10. A deacon in charge said, "What, 1 to 10?" The crowd fell into a short silence, and then a burst of noise. Damn, this time we must bet correctly. Whether or not we can make a comeback depends on this. No, I'm going to bet. All my money, I bet on Qi Ju. Most people chose the latter. After all, a 10-match winning streak was very difficult. Lin Xian slowly stood up, took out the purple gold card, and said, "I bet on the mysterious newcomer." Chapter 76. Lin Xian's decision puzzled the crowd. They didn't know the situation of the newcomer, but they were very clear about Qi Ju's situation. Qi Ju was in existence with a 10-win streak. He was definitely the representative of great strength. One must know that winning streaks was very difficult, especially in this kind of virtual space, because every time they fought, both sides were at the same level. The difficulty of obtaining a 10-win streak in such a battle was unimaginable. In the end, he's still too young. He doesn't know that there is always someone better than him. Many martial artists shook their heads and sighed. In their opinion, Lin Xian's decision was too impulsive. Ling Zhe was also stunned. He was worried that he couldn't find a chance to attack Lin Xian. He didn't expect the other party to take the initiative to deliver himself to him. He hugged the beautiful girl and half reclined on the rattan chair. He laughed arrogantly and said, "I bet 10,000 spirit stones on Qiju. 10,000 spirit stones." Many martial artists sucked in a breath of cold air. 10,000 spirit stones wasn't a small amount. In the mysterious sky sect, it was enough to enter the cultivation pagoda for 20 hours. As expected of the Ling family's young master, "You're really rich," Lin Xian said with a smile. "Kid, it's too late to flatter me now." Ling Zhe's mouth hung an evil smile. Lin Xian disdainfully sneered, "I want to say that for a rich man like young Master Ling, even if you lose 10,000 spirit stones, you won't feel any pain. Am I right?" Ling Zhe's face suddenly sank. "You think I'll lose? Kid, do you know what a 10-win streak is? If you kneel down and apologize to me now, I can let you go." "No need. I'll take your 10,000 spirit stones first." Lin Xian domineeringly turned around and left, because the one competing this time is me. Junior brother Lin wants to compete. Yi Qing had a shocked expression. When the others heard this news, they were relieved. When they saw Lin Xian so confident, they thought that it was some peerless genius from some sect that wanted to compete. Now that they saw that Lin Xian wanted them to go on stage, these people relaxed. They didn't know Lin Xian's strength, but seeing that he was only at the 6th level of the meridian condensation period, he shouldn't be too strong. F***CK. You scare me to death. Ling Zhe sneered. "Let me enjoy you being tortured here." Lin Xian walked out of the first basement hall and followed Luo Qingshan to the second basement floor. The staircase spiraled downward, and the walls on both sides were inlaid with luminous pearls, illuminating the path ahead. "Junior brother Lin, are you really confident?" Luo Qingshan was a little worried. This spiritual space was a little different from the one in the sect. The strength of both sides was determined by the one with the higher cultivation. Seeing Lin Xian's confusion, Luo Qingshan continued. "For example, if you fight with a Ningmai 7th level person, your cultivation will also become Ningmai 7th level. So that's how it is." Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. This way, he would have the opportunity to experience the higher realms in advance. However, this had a disadvantage for martial artists of lower realms. They wouldn't be able to adapt well to the higher realms, and thus wouldn't be able to display their full strength. Lin Xian agreed with this point. It was normal for a Ningmai 6th level martial artist to not adapt to a Ningmai 7th level's illusory body, but he believed that he could quickly adapt. As they spoke, the two had already arrived at the second basement floor. This floor was filled with individual rooms, just like the martial arts rooms, completely sealed off. Lin Xian walked into a prepared room alone and found that the situation inside was similar to the cultivation pagoda. It was also a special array. Immediately, without hesitation, he walked into the array and sat down cross-legged. In the next moment, his soul seemed to leave his body and enter a strange space. Blue sky and white clouds, green mountains and clear waters. It was like a paradise. There were several pavilions in front of him, and many martial artists were sitting inside. Lin Xian's appearance caused the martial artists to look back. When they saw his cultivation, they immediately lost interest. How can a Ningmai 6th level martial artist be so weak? Someone said with a frown. "Who knows, maybe he's new here." "Hey, kid, what's your number?" someone asked. Lin Xian jumped up a few times, stepped on the stones in the water, and jumped into the pavilion. He said in a low voice, "Number 9. Number 9, are you the one competing with Qiju?" The young martial artists in the pavilion curiously sized him up. "It's okay, brother. It's your first time to accumulate experience." Someone comforted him. Someone pulled Lin Xian and said, Look, the one in purple in the pavilion is Chi-Ju. He's at the peak of the Ningmai 7th level, and he's best at the 8 forms of the Extinction Blade. Lin Xian thanked these young martial artists and then looked at Chi-Ju. Chi-Ju also looked back, and their eyes met in the air. Humph! Chi-Ju's expression was full of contempt. He stood up proudly and said with his hands behind his back, "Newcomer, you choose the arena." Arena? Lin Xian was surprised, and then he quickly understood after the martial artist beside him explained. The token in his hand not only represented his identity, but also allowed him to choose the arena. Lin Xian looked around and found that there were forests, valleys, arenas, villas, and other different places. "I'll choose the villa." Lin Xian didn't care. What an idiot! Chi-Ju sneered. The martial artists nearby also whispered, "Brother, there's a gap between your cultivation and his. You'll definitely be promoted to the Ningmai 7th level in the competition." Newcomers usually choose places like forests where there are many obstacles to give them time to adapt. It's easy for Chi-Ju to find a place like the villa. You won't have time to adapt. So it's like that. Lin Xian suddenly understood. Then I'll choose the forest next time. Seeing Lin Xian's casual appearance, the martial artists shook their heads. After 10 breaths, the two of them flashed and entered the villa. After Lin Xian stabilized his body, he cautiously looked around and found that he was in a square martial arts arena. There were many kinds of weapons on both sides. Lin Xian didn't immediately choose a weapon. Instead, he carefully sensed his body. He found that this virtual body had opened 7 spiritual veins. The 7 spiritual veins formed 7 circles in his body. Lin Xian could clearly feel that his strength and speed had increased significantly. He tried to throw a punch, and the spiritual energy in the 7 spiritual veins vibrated together, transmitting a powerful force. My strength increased by 70%. Lin Xian had a general idea. Then he used his footwork, and his body quickly moved around. Speed increased by 50%. Humph! Boy, you didn't run away. I don't know if you're confident or just an idiot. Just as Lin Xian was trying to move his body, Chi-Ju appeared. "In such a spacious place, you'll die." Chi-Ju walked to the weapon rack and picked up a shiny long saber. Lin Xian also picked up a slightly wide long sword. Then he assumed the starting position of the thunderclap sword art. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. At the same time, in the basement hall, the two figures appeared on the light screen on the wall. The atmosphere in the hall became tense. The tables and chairs on both sides were shattered, and terrifying cracks appeared on the ground. Sword Chi crisscrossed, and saber radiance soared into the sky. However, Chi-Ju didn't relax at all. He could feel that the long saber in his hand was being neutralized by the strange power of number 1 high school. The long saber that was originally aimed at Lin Xian was forcefully deflected by 3 centimeters. How is this possible? Chi-Ju's expression changed drastically. It was fine if Lin Xian could dodge his first strike. After all, he was only testing the waters. However, now that he had used the 8 styles of the invincible saber, he still couldn't gain the upper hand. This was unacceptable to him. That's not right. How could he grasp the power of a level 7 meridian condensing stage so quickly? Was he hiding his strength? Chi-Ju thought of a more important question. However, Lin Xian obviously wouldn't give him an answer. Now that Lin Xian could use the power of a level 7 meridian condensing stage, he couldn't be happier. He slashed out again, and the mighty sword Qi mixed with faint golden arcs of electricity formed the power of wind and thunder. The power of a level 7 meridian condensing stage is really strong. Moreover, the power of 7 spirit veins has stronger explosive power and endurance. However, this power is also harder to control. Lin Xian kept analyzing in his heart. After all, He had one more spirit vein, and there were some things he needed to carefully study. If I can completely grasp the power of a level 7 meridian condensing stage in this spiritual space, then I can directly take a spirit pill when I get out. Lin Xian's heart was faintly excited. He still had a pill in his hand that could directly raise his cultivation by 1 stage. If he could grasp the power of a level 7 meridian condensing stage, and then use this pill to advance, then he could stabilize his cultivation in the shortest time possible without worrying about any side effects. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's attack sped up. This scene made the spectating martial artists turn pale with fright. What? He's actually suppressing Qiju? Am I seeing things? Impossible? This is absolutely impossible. Ling Zai's face was no longer calm. He stood up straight, clenched his fists, and stared motionlessly at the light screen. Damn it, who can tell me what's going on? Young master, it's possible that this kid is hiding his strength. A black-clothed martial artist said. Hiding his strength? Ling Zai's face darkened. Damn it, I was wondering why he was so confident. It turns out he was hiding his strength. Junior brother Lin, good job. Not far away, Yi Qing cheered. When this sound reached Ling Zai's ears, it made him even angrier. They must have planned this. Ling Zai seemed to have thought of something. They must have planned so much to win my spirit stones. Thinking of the 10,000 spirit stones, Ling Zai's face was pained. He had dared to bet 10,000 spirit stones because he was 100% sure. He didn't expect to be cheated. It's not that easy to win my spirit stones. Ling Zai summoned a black-clothed martial artist and said in a low voice, "Go and tell Fifth Lord to think of a way to control the results of the match. No matter what, we can't let Lin Xian win." The black-clothed martial artist received the order and quietly left in the spiritual space. Qiju was very sullen. He was completely restrained and was even led by the nose by Lin Xian. Thinking of being defeated by a level 6 meridian condensing stage martial artist under everyone's gaze, he had the urge to kill himself. On the opposite side, Lin Xian's face was calm, and the long sword in his hand was very steady. He didn't seek a quick victory, and only attacked step by step according to his own rhythm. However, in the next moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his ear. "Contestant number 9, I am the manager of this space. I hope you can take the initiative to lose this match." What? Lin Xian suddenly froze, and the attack in his hand also stopped in an instant. However, he immediately calmed down and stabbed out with his long sword once again. However, this small flaw was caught by Qiju, and he immediately counterattacked. He was originally a powerful martial artist. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to achieve 10 consecutive victories. Qiju's move succeeded, and the spiritual power in his body flourished. He used the full power of the 8 forms of the extinction blade. The purple blade light was incomparably vast, and it attacked Lin Xian from all directions. Lin Xian didn't have a good way to deal with this kind of powerful attack. He could only maintain the sword light within 3 feet of him and adopt a defensive stance. This shocking change caused the martial artists in the hall to burst into cheers. Their current mood was like moving forward in the waves, undulating and undulating. What's going on? This Lin Xian suddenly can't take it anymore? Some martial artists were puzzled. Maybe he didn't control the spiritual power in his body well, causing his spiritual power to be consumed too quickly. After all, this isn't his real realm. A level 8 meridian condensing stage expert guest. Only Ling Zai knew that his order was effective. "Lin Xian, I have the enormous Ling family behind me. What do you have to fight with me?" "I said that you will lose, so you must lose." As soon as he finished speaking, the long sword in Lin Xian's hand broke, leaving only a small part of the blade and the hilt. In front of everyone, the manager couldn't directly attack, but he could still cause some damage. Lin Xian's broken sword was his doing. However, this change caused everyone to cry out in surprise. Ling Zhe laughed out loud. He knew that Lin Xian had completely angered the manager and had no chance of winning. On the other hand, Qi Ju's face was filled with madness. Haha, even the heavens are helping me. You can die in peace. Lin Xian looked at the broken sword, as if there was a ball of anger burning in his heart. Inexplicably, he suddenly thought of the mysterious figure he saw in the demon abyss, arrogant, unrestrained, and destroyed a peerless enemy with a smile. At that moment, Lin Xian seemed to have understood something. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Even if you break my sword, you won't be able to change my mind. My sword and my heart are one. The golden electric current didn't disappear. Instead, it flowed along the broken sword and automatically formed a golden lightning sword. Feel Lei Che's fear. Lin Xian's body moved violently, like a golden flash between heaven and earth. The sharp lightning sword cut through the huge saber shadow, bringing with it an aura that could destroy everything and cut Qi Ju's body in half. Plop! The saber fell to the ground, and the two halves of Qi Ju's body fell to the ground, turning into white light and dissipating. On the other hand, Lin Xian raised his sword to the sky, his heart filled with fighting spirit. That lightning-like sword was deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts. After a long time, these warriors came back to their senses and once again cried out in alarm. Why is Lin Xian still here? Shouldn't he have been sent out? Why is he pointing his sword to the sky? Is there an enemy? These warriors discussed spiritedly. Lin Xian's muscles tensed as if he could attack at any time. He was on guard against the manager of this place. But fortunately, the manager didn't dare to make a big deal out of this. After a moment of silence, he sent Lin Xian out. With a flash of light, Lin Xian's figure disappeared from everyone's eyes. In the next moment, his body in the array trembled slightly, and then he slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, he felt as if he had fallen from the 7th rank to the 6th rank of the Meridian's condensing stage. This kind of gap made him feel unreal. Fortunately, his willpower was firm, and he quickly adapted to this difference, slightly circulating the secret art of longevity. The spiritual power in his body flowed smoothly. The golden sword essence seed emitted a bit of light, and he felt that his fusion with the sword essence seed had become closer. It seems that this competition has given me a lot of benefits. Lin Xian smiled indifferently. Not only did he try out the power of the 7th rank of the Meridian's condensing stage, but he also had a new understanding of the way of the sword. It seems that when I go back, I have to properly comprehend it. Lin Xian decided to go into seclusion for a period of time. Of course, before that, he still had something to do, and that was to collect the spirit stones he had won. In this competition, the odds were 1 to 10. Originally, he had bet 3,000 spirit stones, and now he would receive 30,000 spirit stones. 30,000 spirit stones was a very large sum. Lin Xian wanted to laugh just thinking about it. Rumble. The stone door slowly opened, and Lin Xian walked out. Luo Qingshan had been waiting outside for a long time. He had naturally seen everything that had happened on the light screen, so he was particularly worried. Are you okay? Luo Qingshan asked. Let's go and collect the spirit stones. Lin Xian acted as if nothing had happened and smiled as he walked towards the stairs. The two walked out side by side and once again appeared in the basement hall. Many martial artists looked at Lin Xian with a different gaze. This youth's actions were completely beyond their expectations. Ling Zhe, on the other hand, looked at Lin Xian with a dark gaze. After he goes out, find a place where no one is around and kill him. Ling Zhe whispered to the black-clothed martial artist beside him. Don't worry, Young Masterling, a Meridian's condensing stage 6 martial artist, will not be able to escape from my grasp. The black-clothed martial artist laughed sinisterly. Lin Xian and the others collected the spirit stones, and then after talking with Luo Qingshan, they left the arena. Yi Qing smiled as he counted the spirit stones, and then laughed happily. With so many spirit stones, I won't have to worry about going to the cultivation tower. The two of them walked to the Black Sky Sex branch in Misty Cloud City, rented 2 swift eagles, and flew towards the Black Sky sect. When the two of them flew out of Misty Cloud City, a black figure riding on a 2-meter-long strange blackbird quietly followed them. Chapter 79. Lin Xian and Yi Qing rode on the swift eagle and flew back to the sect. At this speed, they would be able to return to the sect in about half a day. Back at the sect, Lin Xian planned to take the spirit-gathering pill to break through his cultivation and comprehend the sword intent seed. He sat cross-legged on the swift eagle and immersed his mind in the golden sword intent seed. This golden seed not only improved his swordsmanship but also increased his thunder attribute cultivation methods. For example, his phantom thunder steps could increase it by about 30%. Just as he was immersed in martial arts, a small black was quickly approaching from behind and exuding a strong killing intent. The golden sword intent seed felt this killing intent and trembled slightly. Lin Xian suddenly woke up and quickly looked back. "What's wrong?" Yi Qing asked. "Senior sister, you go back first. I have something in Yunlan City." Lin Xian thought for a moment and came up with an idea. He couldn't let Yi Qing fall into this kind of crisis. Immediately, he used the token to control the swift eagle and quickly turned around and flew to the side. Yi Qing shouted a few words from behind, but seeing that Lin Xian didn't respond, she could only give up. After turning around, Lin Xian didn't go back directly. Instead, he ran towards the nearby forest. He knew that the person's cultivation must be higher than his, so it wasn't a wise choice to meet force with force. "Lingze, Ling family." Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said, "When I have the strength, I will definitely get justice for today." The black-clothed martial artist behind found that Lin Xian suddenly changed his route and sneered. With his strength of the 8th level of the Meridian condensing stage, he wasn't afraid of Lin Xian playing any tricks. This wasn't the virtual space. In reality, absolute strength could crush all schemes. "Go." He controlled the strange bird under his feet and quickly flew towards Lin Xian. The strange bird was black all over, but its claws were white. Although it wasn't big, its flying speed was very fast. It was faster than the swift eagle by 3 times. "Humph! In front of my black feathers, you have no chance to escape." The black-clothed martial artist sneered. Soon, he caught up to Lin Xian. Lin Xian was now less than 50 meters away from the black-clothed martial artist. He knew that he couldn't be anxious at this time. He had to remain calm. Only by remaining calm would he have a chance to escape. "Aerial combat is disadvantageous for me. I need to descend immediately." Lin Xian urged the swift eagle to fly down into the forest below. Whoosh! When the swift eagle flew to a low altitude, Lin Xian directly jumped down and landed steadily on the ground. Behind him, the black-clothed martial artist also jumped and landed steadily. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, his eyes full of contempt. 8th level Ningmai. Lin Xian's pupils shrank when he saw the man's cultivation. He recognized this man. It was the man in black who had attacked him. The Ling family is really shameless. They want to silence us after losing the competition. Lin Xian sneered. "Kid, it's useless to say anything now. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for provoking someone you shouldn't have." The black-clothed man sneered, a layer of fiery red appearing on his palm. "What do I do?" Lin Xian's eyes were fixed on the black-clothed man. He was extremely anxious. Suddenly his mind moved. With my 6th level Ningmai cultivation, he definitely won't use his full strength. As long as I take advantage of his underestimation, I might be able to turn the tables. Lin Xian had hope in his heart. My biggest trump card is the Essence Gathering Pill, and the Seed of Sword Essence. The Essence Gathering Pill can allow me to reach the 7th level Ningmai cultivation in an instant, and the Seed of Sword Essence can make my attacks even more powerful. However, I only have one chance. If I fail, I won't have another chance. Lin Xian took a deep breath and carefully thought over the details. At this time, the black-clothed martial artist attacked. He waved his right hand in the air, and a fiery red palm the size of a millstone appeared in front of him. It carried a scorching heat and quickly attacked Lin Xian. So fast, Lin Xian was shocked. At the same time, he used the phantom steps and quickly dodged. However, he didn't use his full strength. He wanted to create the illusion that he couldn't withstand a single blow from the black-clothed man. Pung! Under the palm, Lin Xian awkwardly dodged. The row of trees behind him were all broken, and the branches were all scorched and turned to ashes. What a terrifying palm! Lin Xian was deeply afraid of the black-clothed man. If the black-clothed man used his full strength, he feared that he wouldn't have any chance. Even if you win the competition, you will still die at my hands. The black-clothed martial artist had a mocking expression. With one hand behind his back, he stretched out his right hand, wanting to grab Lin Xian. For a martial artist like you, I can kill you with one hand. The black-clothed man's palm seemed to be cast from steel. With a casual grab, there was the sound of air being torn apart. Chance! Lin Xian saw that the black-clothed man didn't even have any spiritual power and directly attacked with one hand. He knew that his chance had come. With a light tap of his storage ring, Lin Xian's speed reached a record high. A pill the size of a longan was swallowed into his mouth. Immediately after, the crimson flame sword appeared in his hand, circulating his spiritual power to the extreme. He continuously communicated with the Seed of Sword Intent and launched his strongest attack, Raging Thunder Slash. All of this happened in an instant. When the black-clothed man arrogantly attacked with one hand, Lin Xian's fate was sealed. Lin Xian suddenly exploded. His body was covered with golden lightning, and a golden flash of lightning directly cut the black-clothed man's arm. Moreover, in this golden light, there was a faint trace of pressure. Although it was very weak, it was like a dormant supreme beast, causing people's hearts to palpitate. The black-clothed man screamed and retreated. One of his arms was raised. Lin Xian's attack succeeded, and he immediately retreated. He didn't continue fighting. At that moment, he felt that his essence, energy, and spirit had perfectly fused together. That attack had reached his strongest state. Kid, I want kill you. The black-clothed man's face was twisted in pain. He didn't think that the youth he regarded as an ant would be able to cut off his arm. I will tear you apart bit by bit. I will make you regret being born into this world. The black-clothed man's entire body emitted a fiery red light. His entire body was like a volcano, ready to erupt at any time. Demonic flame palm. The black-clothed martial artist waved his left hand. Suddenly, the sky was filled with red palm shadows, covering the sky as they rushed towards Lin Xian. At the same time, the black-clothed man's body also leaped high. With a red tail light, he fiercely rushed over. Phantom thunder step. Lin Xian quickly dodged, not daring to meet it head-on. First of all, the 7th spiritual vein in his body had just been opened. He needed to circulate his Xian Qi to stabilize it. Moreover, the attack of an enraged 8th-level Meridian stage martial artist was not something he could take. Boom, boom, boom. The fiery red palm shadows pierced the ground, forming deep pits with a radius of 1 zhang. Countless trees fell. Lin Xian was hit by the palm wind. He felt as if he had hit a volcano, and his blood and qi roiled. Die. After dodging the palm shadows, Lin Xian wasn't out of danger. The black-clothed man used his movement technique and directly arrived in front of him. His left palm was like a piece of bright red iron, crashing down with a bang. This kind of aura was like a peerless cold light that made his heart tremble. Sword force, and it's far from the entry level. The black-clothed man didn't have any fighting spirit left. He was like a frightened kitten, his entire body trembling. The youth in front of him was like an enigma that he couldn't see through. First, his cultivation had skyrocketed, and he had cut off his arm in one strike. Under his full power attack, he had used a stunning sword strike. Finally, he had even released a sword force that was close to the small success stage. Run. This was the black-clothed martial artist's only thought. Lin Xian slowly raised the long sword in his hand. The sword essence seed in his body was like a golden sun, radiant for tens of thousands of zhang. Raising his hand, he drew his sword. The black-clothed man retreated in despair. He discovered that what Lin Xian had swung wasn't a long sword, but a divine thunder that descended from the ninth heaven. It connected the heavens and the earth, destroying everything. With a miserable scream, the black-clothed martial artist was struck between his eyebrows. With infinite fear, he crashed to the ground. Lin Xian stabbed the long sword into the ground. He couldn't help but cough up a mouthful of blood. With great difficulty, he walked in front of the black-clothed martial artist and took his storage ring. This battle was the most thrilling battle he had ever experienced since he started practicing martial arts. He had used up all of his cards, and only then had he managed to kill the black-clothed martial artist. Is this the strength of a level 8 pulse condensation period martial artist? Lin Xian couldn't help but think of Zhang Qian. As an elite disciple of a sect, Zhang Qian's strength was likely much higher than the black-clothed martial artists. However, I have the sword essence seed. As long as I can comprehend 10% of it, killing Zhang Qian won't be a problem. Lin Xian didn't have any fear. Instead, he had a glimmer of anticipation. Only by facing a stronger opponent could he grow faster. Putting away the long sword, Lin Xian took out several healing pills. Then he found a safe place to quietly recover. The secret longevity art quickly revolved in his body. His 7 spirit veins vibrated together, quickly repairing the wounds in his body. Time flew by. In a flash, a day had passed. Within Misty Cloud City, Ling Zhe anxiously paced around. The black-clothed men he had sent out had already left for an entire day. Even now, there was still no news. This caused him to feel uneasy. What am I worried about? How could a mere level 6 pulse condensation period brat escape? Ling Zhe comforted himself. But as time passed, the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Did that brat really escape? From beginning to end, he didn't think that the black-clothed men had been killed. In his opinion, this was simply impossible. Forget it, I'll return to the sect and see. In the end, Ling Zhe couldn't ignore it. He chose to return to the Profound Sky sect to check on Lin Xian's situation. Half a day later, a 10-foot-long demonic bird flew in the direction of the Profound Sky sect with Ling Zhe and the 2 black-clothed martial artists. In the forest, Lin Xian slowly opened his eyes. The wounds in his body had already healed by about 70 to 80%. Even his broken bones had been reconnected by the secret longevity art, returning to normal. This caused him to once again marvel at the miraculous power of the secret longevity art. Among the cultivation methods he knew, There wasn't a single one that could be mentioned in the same breath as the secret longevity art. Following this, Lin Xian didn't immediately move. Instead, he recalled yesterday's battle and summarized his experience. The Thunder Sword Force is close to initial success. Its power is unimaginable. However, the Thunderclap Sword art is a bit behind. It can no longer keep up with my strength. Lin Xian muttered to himself. When he was in the outer sect, the Thunderclap Sword art was his main attack method. But as his cultivation increased, the incomplete Thunderclap Sword art could no longer satisfy him. The Phantom Thunder steps still need to be strengthened. The Outer Sky Flying Star is still my last resort. Lin Xian thought about it and realized that he had too few trump cards. When I return this time, I need to choose a few martial arts and improve them all. Lin Xian stroked his chin. But before that, he had another idea. Currently, the spiritual energy in his body was of the thunder attribute. Originally, he purposely changed it to match the Thunderclap Sword art. But now that he had the Thunder Sword Intent Seed, his thunder attribute spiritual energy seemed a little redundant. Moreover, he felt that the greatest advantage of the secret longevity art was its ability to integrate all attributes and its terrifying recovery ability. He had already experienced this in the process of healing. Can I transfer all the thunder attribute in my body to the Sword Intent Seed so that the spiritual energy in my body can return to its normal, non-elemental state? Lin Xian had an idea and began to try. First, he activated the Sword Intent Seed and let it release the pressure of the Ninth Heaven Thunder to see if it could attract the thunder attribute in his body. In the next moment, a shocking change occurred in his body. Chapter 81. The Sword Intent Seed seemed to have turned into a huge whirlpool, sucking in all the golden lightning in his body. The process was very slow, and every strand of golden lightning that left his spiritual energy brought pain to Lin Xian. The whole process lasted for 2 hours, and Lin Xian was also tortured for 2 hours. However, the effect of the pain was obvious. The spiritual energy in his body had returned to its green color, and the Sword Intent Seed was bigger than before. Absorbing lightning can strengthen the Sword Intent Seed? Lin Xian had a new discovery, but he felt relieved after thinking about it. The Golden Sword Intent Seed should be the Lightning Sword Intent, which was why it had such a reaction. Lin Xian finished everything and ran in the direction of the Black Heaven sect. 2 days later, he finally saw the magnificent mountain gate. "Who is it?" The mountain gate disciple shouted. Lin Xian's figure flashed and appeared in front of them. Seeing the two people who looked like they were facing a great enemy, he smiled and took out a token. "Inner Sect Disciple." The gatekeeper was shocked and hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, senior brother." Lin Xian strode through the mountain gate and sighed in his heart. 3 months ago, he was still struggling at the bottom of the ladder like these disciples. Now he had entered the inner sect and became their senior brother. Lin Xian sighed in his heart and walked toward the inner sect. In the inner sect, in front of a quiet courtyard, a young girl anxiously walked around and kept whispering. "Junior brother Lin has been missing for 3 days, and senior brother Luo doesn't know. If he doesn't come today, I'll report it to Instructor Morong." This young girl was naturally Yi Qing. She had been back for 3 days, but she didn't see Lin Xian's shadow. During this time, she also used a special method to ask senior brother Luo, but she found out that Lin Xian didn't return to the arena at all. This made Yi Qing very anxious, and she even suspected that Lin Xian had an accident. Yi Qing stomped her feet and angrily turned around, ready to leave. However, in the next moment, she exclaimed, "Junior brother Lin, you're back." Lin Xian was slightly stunned. He didn't think that he would see Yi Qing in front of his house. However, he immediately understood that Yi Qing was worried about his safety. Thinking of this, he felt some warmth in his heart. Why is senior Sister Yi here? Is something the matter? Lin Xian feigned ignorance. You're still talking. Yi Qing said angrily. You've disappeared for 3 days. I thought you were taken away by a demon beast. Lin Xian's face was covered in cold sweat. He could only brace himself and explain. I got lost. Yi Qing didn't believe it at all, but seeing Lin Xian's I have no sense of direction expression, she could only angrily grind her teeth and bite him. Oh, right. Tomorrow Instructor Moron will be teaching some martial arts knowledge. Don't be late. Yi Qing finished and left. Teaching. Lin Xian was looking forward to it. He originally wanted to find Instructor Moron, but now it was even easier. Returning to his room, Lin Xian had a good sleep. Although his physical strength was still in good condition, the continuous journey and the life and death battle had exhausted his spirit and soul. He needed a good rest. If he was too tense, sooner or later he would break. Only by alternating between tension and relaxation was the way of the king. After teaching in the middle of the night, Lin Xian woke up from his sleep. He stretched and then took out a ring. It was the one he got from the black-clothed martial artist. With a thought, Lin Xian's perception entered the ring. The space inside wasn't very big, and there weren't many things. It could be seen that the black-clothed martial artist wasn't very rich. After all, he was just a servant. A few bottles of healing pills, 2 ordinary swords, and a few martial arts secret books. Lin Xian flipped through them. One of them was a cultivation technique, but he wasn't interested and just threw it aside. The other book was a palm technique. Lin Xian thought that the black-clothed martial artist palm technique was good, so he took a look. This was a martial art called Bright Fire Palm. It was a low-level, profound-level technique. After mastering it, one's entire palm would be as red as fire. It was very powerful, and ordinary objects would melt upon contact. Although Lin Xian didn't have the fire attribute, he had the thunder attribute. He could refer to the characteristics of this palm technique and condense the thunder palm. He was now in urgent need of martial arts moves, and practicing other martial arts would also be good for his sword arts. For example, fist and palm techniques, he could comprehend them by analogy. Moreover, swords could be seen as an extension of the arm, according to the above. First of all, one had to constantly temper the palm with high temperature so that it could withstand the heat of the flame. When the palm didn't fear the high temperature of the flame, one could practice the moves. The moves were divided into 3 stages. The first stage was bright fire palm. That was to say, the palm was fiery red, and the palm wind carried a high temperature. The second stage was to fill the sky with palm shadows. After mastering it, dozens of palm shadows would be shot out in an instant. Moreover, the palm shadows would not dissipate and had a strong burning effect. The third stage, which was the large success stage, was called transforming palm into fire. The palm was the flame, and the flame was the palm. After mastering it, ordinary swords and sabers would melt. After Lin Xian finished reading, he had a general understanding. He compared it to the black-clothed martial artist and found that the latter hadn't mastered the third stage. He just needed to change the flame to lightning. Lin Xian pondered. He didn't have absolute confidence, but he felt that on the path of martial arts, techniques and application should be the same. The only difference was the attribute. Thinking of this, he decided to give it a try. Communicating with the lightning sword intent seed, a golden arc of lightning appeared in his palm. Immediately after, more lightning surged out and enveloped his palm. This lightning and I are one. I've already fulfilled the first condition. I just need to practice the moves. He memorized all the moves and then came to the school to try cultivating. Golden arcs of lightning appeared on both of his palms. Every strike carried the power of lightning. The momentum was terrifying. Lin Xian finished practicing the palm technique and found that he had completely mastered the first stage. In fact, Other than Lin Xian, it was difficult for others to master it quickly because the others only had attribute spiritual energy and not real flames. However, Lin Xian's lightning was directly absorbed from the outside world. It was real lightning. This situation directly led to his abnormal cultivation speed of attribute martial arts, especially lightning attribute martial arts. Palm shadows filling the sky. Lin Xian continuously struck out with his palms, forming a golden palm shadow in front of him. It was like a golden light curtain that was incomparably dazzling. As for the third stage, transforming palm into lightning, he needed a few days to figure it out. I'll call it Golden Lightning Palm from now on. Lin Xian gave this set of palm techniques a name. Then he continued to practice and strengthen this set of palm techniques. He also practiced it together with the Phantom Thunder Steps. Unknowingly, the east gradually turned white, and a red sun broke through the sky. Lin Xian stopped and began to face the sun to cultivate the longevity secret art. When the sun rose, there was a faint purple aura around it. This purple aura was very helpful for martial artists' cultivation. Therefore, many martial artists would face the east at this time to cultivate. When the sun rose high, Lin Xian stopped cultivating the longevity secret art. He had a simple breakfast and walked towards Instructor Morong's hall. Today was his first time listening to such an instructor's lecture. As for the content, he was full of curiosity. Chapter 82. Lin Xian arrived at the lecture area early and waited for Instructor Morong. Not long after he arrived, Yi Qing and Luo Qingshan also arrived one after another. The three of them were chatting in a low voice. After about half an hour, Morong Qianling appeared. She was wearing a silver-white light armor and a dark cyan long sword at her waist. She looked less charming but more heroic. Today, I will teach you a set of sword art. Morong Qianling didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. This set of sword art is called Gale Sword Art. It belongs to the intermediate profound level martial arts. I will demonstrate it once. You guys watch carefully. After she finished speaking, she pulled out her long sword and assumed a starting position. In the next moment, a gale rose from under her feet. This wind seemed to appear out of nowhere and blew Morong Qianling's long hair. Yi Qing and Luo Qingshan were fine. It wasn't their first time experiencing this kind of thing. However, it was Lin Xian's first time seeing it. Morong Qianling's black hair fluttered. Her entire person seemed to have turned into a gust of wind. The sword rose and fell like a gale. It made people unable to see its source, let alone guess its trajectory. Lin Xian was completely intoxicated. He was worried that he didn't have a powerful sword art. Now that he had this opportunity, he certainly wouldn't let it go. Although Morong Qianling's moves were quick and agile and dazzling, Lin Xian had the mysterious small sword in his body. His comprehension of sword art had reached a terrifying level. Gale 3 thrusts. Morong Qianling lightly touched the ground. Her body suddenly turned into a stream of light. The dark cyan long sword in her hand seemed to have turned into a cyan hurricane, tearing the void. 3 cyan lights cut through the void and formed a Zeke character. This Gale 3 thrusts is flexible and changeable. Not only can it chase the enemy, but it can also escape from encirclement. Morong Qianling explained while using the Gale 3 thrusts. The 3 cyan lights formed different trajectories in the air. It included attacking, chasing, dodging, and various other methods. Lin Xian gasped in surprise. Compared to the Gale sword art, his thunderclap sword art seemed to be more simplistic. However, this was normal. Firstly, the thunderclap sword art was of a lower grade. Secondly, it was incomplete. Furthermore, it was a simplified version of a certain sword art. If I can learn the Gale sword technique, I'm afraid my strength will increase by 30%. Lin Xian kept comparing in his mind. And at this time, Morong Qianling changed her move once again. It was different from the speed and sharpness from before. This time, the spiritual energy around her body surged, as if it was a wind gap. The power of the wind made people feel apprehensive. Whirlwind! Countless cracks appeared on the blue stone on the ground as the sword slashed out. A 2-feet-tall green tornado descended from the sword and swept forward at a rapid speed. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He could feel a terrifying suction force and a faint sense of danger from the green tornado. This feeling made his chest feel stuffy. Crack! The nearby trees were uprooted by the suction force, and the soil was swept into the wind. Chi, chi, chi. Just as the trees came into contact with the tornado, countless green wind blades appeared and cut the trees into countless pieces. After moving for 50 to 60 feet, the green tornado stopped rotating and gradually disappeared. However, Morong Qianling didn't stop. She once again used her long sword to slash out a whirlwind. This time, the whirlwind had just moved for 20 feet when it suddenly split into 3 and attacked in 3 different directions. Everywhere it passed, there would be gravel, and the ground would be in a mess. It can actually be like this. This time, not only was Lin Xian surprised, even Luo Qingshan, and Yi Qing exclaimed in a low voice. The Gale Sword technique still has 2 moves left. One of them is a defensive move called the Dance of the Wind and Moon. Morong Qianling said, Qingshan, attack me with all your strength. Luo Qingshan stood up, and a faint halo appeared behind him. He pulled out his sword and stabbed forward, rushing towards Morong Qianling with his fastest speed. Before the attack arrived, the air around Morong Qianling suddenly became chaotic. A green light flashed and formed a half-moon-shaped wind wall in front of her, bouncing Luo Qingshan's attack to the side. After one move, Morong Qianling put away her long sword and didn't say anything. Instead, she let Lin Xian and the other 2 silently comprehend. After a moment, Yi Qing suddenly asked, Instructor Morong, didn't you say there was still one more move? What is it? The last move is too difficult for you guys. It requires the cultivation of Sea of Soul Realm to use. Morong Qianling's expression was indifferent. However, when she saw the fervent gazes of the 3 people, she could only helplessly sigh. I'll use it once to save you kids from not giving up. She waved her lily-white hand and slashed out her long sword. 3 light green wind blades flew out from the tip of the sword. Each of them was more than a meter long and whistled as they flew into the distance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 wind blades flashed and chopped a distant stone pillar into several pieces before disappearing. Sword chi release. Lin Xian's pupils slightly shrank. This was a move that only Sea of Soul Realm martial artists could use. At their current stage, they really couldn't do it. All right, I'll now demonstrate the complete move of Gale's sword art. I'll explain the 3 major sword skills in detail. Morong Qianling began to explain. Seriously, Lin Xian realized how fortunate it was to have an instructor. He could let the disciples avoid many detours and directly carry out the correct practice. Suddenly, his brows wrinkled as he cursed in his heart. Speaking of instructors, he had one in his body. Moreover, it was a terror grade 1. However, that person drank all day long and gave Lin Xian a very unreliable feeling. Moreover, he was currently in a deep sleep. Seems like I need to wake up Alcohol Lord as soon as possible. Lin Xian made a decision. Half a day later, Morong Qianling stopped her explanation. Lin Xian and the other 2 had memorized the moves. The rest could only rely on their own practice and comprehension. After bidding farewell to Yi Qing and Luo Qingshan, Lin Xian left alone. He didn't return to his residence. Instead, he walked towards the sect's herbal hall. He wanted to inquire about soul recovery herbs. Passing through the pavilions, Lin Xian arrived at an independent courtyard. Inside, there were palaces scattered about and figures shuttling back and forth. Even from afar, he could smell the scent of countless herbs as well as a faint scent of alchemy fire. Lin Xian knew that this was the inner sect's herbal hall. All the pills they used came from here. Lin Xian walked in and looked around curiously. Some of the herbal hall's disciples glanced at him and then left expressionlessly. Lin Xian didn't mind. He had heard a little about this herbal hall. Apart from the herbal hall's disciples, there were even more figures of inner sect disciples. These inner sect disciples were all here to ask for pills. Of course, everyone's methods were different. Some people bought at a high price, some used connections, and some took on missions to obtain pills. Lin Xian didn't have any special connections in the inner sect, therefore he wanted to use the other two methods to obtain the pills he wanted. Of course, the premise was that there were soul recovery herbs here. "Senior brother, I have something to ask." Lin Xian walked in front of a herbal hall disciple and said indifferently, Chapter 83. What's the matter? The herb hall disciple asked, "May I ask if there are any soul recovery herbs?" Lin Xian asked with a glimmer of hope, "Soul recovery herbs?" The 100 Herb Hall disciple looked at Lin Xian in surprise. "These herbs are very rare and precious. With your status, I'm afraid it will be difficult to obtain them." Lin Xian sighed in his heart. It seemed that these soul recovery herbs were indeed difficult to obtain. His disciple pondered for a moment and said hesitantly, "But it's not impossible. Go to the mission area and take a look. There seems to be a mission that involves the herbs you mentioned." Really? Lin Xian originally gave up, but he didn't expect things to take a turn for the better. He thanked him and quickly walked to the mission area. The missions here were similar to those in the outer sect mission hall, but most of them were related to herbs. Lin Xian looked for a long time and didn't find any missions that mentioned soul recovery herbs. Puzzled, he asked the deacon disciple and found out that there was a 100 Herb Hall escort mission. The reward was to be able to choose any herb in 100 Herb Hall, including the resurrection grass. However, Lin Xian regretted that someone had already accepted this mission. "Don't be too anxious. This isn't the first time this mission has been accepted, but it has failed. Maybe you will have another chance," the deacon disciple said. Helpless, he could only wait. Lin Xian walked away with a heavy heart and didn't notice a pair of surprised eyes in the crowd. This pair of eyes naturally belonged to Ling Zhe. He didn't expect Lin Xian to still be alive, and his cultivation had increased. How is this possible? He is a rank 8 meridians condensation period martial artist, but he can't even kill a rank 6 martial artist. Ling Zhe's face was gloomy. "I'm afraid He is already dead. No, I have to get rid of him, or else I won't be able to rest easy." Ling Zhe was faintly worried. Suddenly, he thought of Zhang Qian and the agreement between Lin Xian and Zhang Qian. With Zhang Qian's personality, he will definitely kill him. I just have to wait. Ling Zhe gradually calmed down. In the following days, Lin Xian continued to comprehend the sword art of Gale. At the same time, he practiced the Phantom Thunder Steps and Golden Thunder Palm. Of course, he did not neglect the secret art of longevity. Now, the 7 spirit veins in his body were crystal clear, and the spirit energy in them was like a surging river. Every time it flowed, it would bring about a tyrannical force. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 months had passed, and the date of his battle with Zhang Qian was getting closer and closer. That morning, he woke up early as usual. First, he practiced the secret art of longevity for 2 hours. Then, he went to the wind-resisting cliff to practice his sword. This wind-resisting cliff was a dangerous place in the back mountain. Below, it was a bottomless abyss, and the surroundings were filled with chilly gales. Although the environment was harsh, it was a good place to practice the sword. It was especially suitable for wind sword arts. At this time, the sky had just begun to brighten. The mountain was cold and quiet, and Lin Xian was the only one on the quiet path. The closer they got to the wind-resisting cliff, the lower the surrounding temperature became. Moreover, the fierce wind was like a knife, and when it blew on their bodies, they felt as if they were being cut by a knife. Lin Xian slightly operated the secret art of longevity, and the spirit energy in his body vibrated, resisting the blade-like fierce wind. He came to the wind-resisting cliff, took out the red flame sword, and began to practice the Gale sword arts. The sword moves that were as agile as the wind were slowly displayed in his hands. Sometimes it was nimble, sometimes it was strange. The long sword seemed to come out of nowhere, and people could not figure out its trajectory. In fact, he had already achieved a small success in the Gale sword arts. As for coming to the wind-resisting cliff every day, it was because Lin Xian wanted to comprehend the concept of wind, or the wind force. Therefore, if he wanted to achieve a large success in the Gale sword arts, he needed to comprehend the wind force, or the concept of wind. Lin Xian was completely immersed in the sword arts. He constantly used the long sword to generate wind, and fought with the fierce wind around him to comprehend the changes in it. The sky gradually brightened, and the sun rose. A ray of light tore through the clouds and shone on the wind-resisting cliff. It was like a sharp sword piercing through everything. The sunlight shone on his face, bringing a trace of warmth. Lin Xian suddenly woke up, looking at the ray of light that shone through 10,000 flowers. He suddenly had a trace of realization. The Gale sword arts not only contains the concept of wind, but also the concept of sword. I insisted on pursuing the concept of wind, but neglected the concept of sword, and fell behind. Lin Xian suddenly had an epiphany. He had the mysterious small sword in his body, and its biggest advantage was the concept of sword arts. As long as he could comprehend the concept of sword arts and the Gale sword arts, he would be able to master the sword arts. As if it felt Lin Xian's epiphany, the mysterious small sword in his body kept on ringing. This sound made Lin Xian's spirit soar, and his understanding of sword arts become more thorough. "Haha, junior brother Lin, you're here too." A hearty laugh sounded. "Take my Gale's sword." Behind him, there was a rapid sound of something breaking through the air, and a light flashed as if a fierce wind was blowing. Lin Xian laughed and stabbed out with his sword. It was also the Gale sword arts, and it was agile and strange. The sword light flashed, and the two sword lights kept on changing, making a fierce sound of collision. Every strike was accompanied by a strong wind blade, scraping the nearby mountain rocks and creating terrifying cracks. "Junior brother Lin, I haven't seen you today. Your sword arts have improved greatly." Luo Qingshan's voice came. The Gale sword arts had become even fiercer. "Senior brother Luo, you must be joking." Lin Xian held the sword in his hand, and his body was as straight as a pine tree. Luo Qingshan looked at the calm young man in front of him and was amazed. His cultivation was higher than Lin Xian's, and he came into contact with the Gale sword arts earlier than Lin Xian. However, in terms of sword arts, the latter was far superior to him. While he was amazed, he also felt helpless. "I heard that you and Zhang Qian are going to have a life-and-death duel soon." Luo Qingshan frowned and said. Lin Xian helplessly rubbed his nose. "Senior brother, you know about it too?" "I'm not the only one who knows. I'm afraid that all the inner disciples know about it," Luo Qingshan said. "Ordinary people can't use the life-and-death duel casually. Only after reporting to the sect and getting approval from the sect can they use it." "So that's how it is," Lin Xian muttered. "Will the sect interfere? I don't know. After all, the inner disciples haven't had a life-and-death duel for a long time." Luo Qingshan said, but I have to remind you that Zhang Qian's instructor was once one of the top 10 core disciples. Moreover, it is said that there is an elder who thinks highly of him. Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect Zhang Qian's background to be so complicated. Slowly exhaling, Lin Xian's eyes emitted 2 sword lights, and they were unstoppable. No matter who it is, they can't stop me. At this moment, Lin Xian's back was facing the sun, but the light behind him was boundless. His body emitted a fierce aura, like a sharp sword that reached the heavens, standing on top of a mountain peak. Although it was only for a moment, Luo Qingshan's face changed greatly. In that moment, he felt that Lin Xian was like the ruler of this world. That kind of aura made him tremble. Sword force, the real sword force. Luo Qingshan was shocked. Humph, aren't you afraid of biting your tongue by saying such big words? Let me see what you're capable of. A sword light suddenly exploded and attacked Lin Xian at an unbelievable speed. Chapter 84. This sword energy was very sudden and came from a tricky angle. More importantly, this person's presence was at the 8th level of the Meridian Realm. Lin Shidi, be careful. Luo Qingshan didn't have time to stop him and could only shout out a warning. Lin Xian coldly glanced at him. His gaze was like a sharp sword that pierced people's hearts. The attacking disciple's body trembled as a trace of fear rose in his heart. But he was already halfway there, so he could only grit his teeth and continue to attack. Humph! Lin Xian slowly raised his hand and lightly waved the red flame greatsword. He didn't even activate his Ling power. Ha ha! You dare to boast with this little skill. The group of troublemaking disciples laughed arrogantly. On the side, Luo Qingshan was also worried. Although he knew that Lin Xian's sword skills were outstanding, facing a martial artist at the 8th level of the Meridian Realm, not using Ling power was too careless. Lin Xian was expressionless as he slowly waved his longsword. However, this action was completely different in the eyes of the disciple who had launched the sneak attack. What he saw was a sharp sword looming behind Lin Xian's back. The presence was like 10,000 mountains. Just a trace of it could crush someone to death. What is that? How can there be such a shadow? The attacking disciple was shocked and clearly felt resistance. As Lin Xian's longsword fell, the pressure increased and finally exploded. Pooh! In the air, a figure spat out blood and retreated in a sorry state. When the troublemaking disciples saw this scene, their jaws dropped. What happened? What happened? How did you get hurt? These people ran over and asked all at once. They didn't see the mysteries of Lin Xian's sword. Luo Qingshan smiled bitterly. He had underestimated this Shidi. The attacking disciple was pale and couldn't say anything. He couldn't say anything. Was he supposed to say that he saw a great sword taller than a mountain behind Lin Xian? Everyone would probably look at him like he was an idiot. Lin Xian stood with sword in hand. That feeling just now was too strange. From his epiphany, not long ago, to the attack with sword force, it was all related to his comprehension of the seed of sword intent. Moreover, he felt that his fusion with the seed of sword intent had improved. He must have used a demonic technique just now. Brothers, take him down and hand him over to the sect for interrogation. The group of troublemaking youths said. Whoosh, whoosh. 5 or 6 silhouettes soared into the air and rushed towards Lin Xian. Their hands continuously swung out fierce moves, and various lights enveloped Lin Xian from all directions. Whirlwind! Lin Xian's face was as calm as still water. He pulled out the large sword from the ground and struck out horizontally. Above the tip of the sword, a green whirlwind that was more than 10 feet tall whizzed out. When it landed on the ground, it continued to expand. Moreover, It quickly split from 1 to 3 and rushed towards the disciple who had jumped up. Whoosh, whoosh. These green whirlwinds were covered with wind blades that glinted with a cold light as they swept forward. Ah! Screams rang out one after another. The 5 disciples in the air were all repelled by the whirlwinds, and 3 of them were even pierced by the wind blades, repelling 5 people with a single sword strike, and one of them was a rank 8 meridian condensing martial artist. Lin Xian's performance could no longer be described as stunning. It was completely monstrous. The group of troublemaking youths all looked at him with fear. Their eyes were filled with hatred, but more than that, there was fear. At this time, a disciple who had been standing in the distance and hadn't made a move said, "You are Lin Xian." Lin Xian looked up and found that there were 2 long swords on the right side of his chest clashing with each other. Enforcers? Lin Xian frowned. The sect has already agreed to your life and death duel with Zhang Qian. In 3 days, in the life and death arena, it will be a battle of life and death. After the enforcer finished speaking, he took out a letter in his hand. Whoosh. The thin letter at this moment seemed to be sharper than a sword. It directly cut through the air and slashed towards Lin Xian. Golden lightning appeared in Lin Xian's palm, crackling as it formed a small ball of light that enveloped the letter. Chi. The sandalwood-colored letter cut through the outermost layer of the golden lightning and continued to advance with a cold intent. However, even more lightning surged out. When it was about a third of the way, the letter completely stopped moving and just lay quietly in Lin Xian's hand. The enforcer was slightly surprised. To outsiders, it looked like he had casually flicked it, but he knew that this attack contained a lot of hidden power. Even a rank 8 meridian condensing martial artist might not be able to withstand it. His cultivation is at the rank 7 meridian condensing martial artist, but he has the battle power of a rank 8 meridian condensing martial artist. No wonder he dares to fight with Zhang Qian. The enforcer whispered. Lin Xian held the letter, his face as calm as water. The duel in 3 days was 10 days earlier than he had expected. It seems that I need to consolidate my newly comprehended sword essence. Lin Xian was fearless. As long as he completely grasped his newly comprehended sword essence, his battle power would immediately double. Without staying at the Imperial Sword Cliff, Lin Xian returned to his residence. The golden sword essence in his body was larger than before. Now, the sword moves he used were almost as powerful as a small success sword force, and this was just the power of a small success sword intent. One had to know that even a small success sword force was not something that many disciples of the profound Sky sect could comprehend. After all, this kind of thing was too ethereal and required extremely high comprehension. Moreover, not everyone was like Lin Xian, who could plant a seed of sword essence in his body. With the seed of sword essence, Lin Xian only needed to slowly dig and cultivate it. As long as there was enough time, when the seed of sword essence matured, the sword essence within would naturally be comprehended by him. He spent the whole day comprehending the seed of sword essence. The next day, at dawn, Yi Qing knocked on Lin Xian's door and told him that Instructor Morong was looking for him. Looking for me? Lin Xian was at a loss. He tidied up and went out, but his heart was constantly guessing. Seeing Morong Qianling, Lin Xian's heart was a bit perturbed. The day after tomorrow, you will have a life and death duel with Zhang Qiansheng. How confident are you? Morong Qianling's voice was cold. Lin Xian was stunned. He did not expect that Morong Qianling would look for him to ask such a question. After thinking for a while, he replied, if Zhang Qiansheng was still at the 8th level of the pulse condensation stage, I would have 60% confidence, 60%. Morong Qianling's eyes flashed. I want to know what you are relying on. Seeing Lin Xian's doubts, she continued, if you can't convince me, I won't send you to your death. After all, you are half my disciple. Lin Xian took a deep breath. There was a trace of warmth in his heart. Instructor Morong was worried about him. The seed of sword essence in his body slightly vibrated. Lin Xian's body emitted an imposing aura like a peerless sword being unsheathed, making people unable to look straight at it. Sword force. Morong Qianling's expression changed for the first time. Her red lips trembled as she exclaimed, "Small success, sword force." Lin Xian's sword essence had not yet taken shape, but it was very similar to sword force. This was exactly what he wanted. He did not want to expose his sword essence too early. After all, this kind of thing was too profound. There might not be anyone who could comprehend it in a few hundred years. Morong Qianling recovered from her initial shock. She stared at Lin Xian and slowly said, "Sword force alone is not enough." Chapter 85. Not enough. Lin Xian frowned. His current strength was enough to crush the majority of pulse condensation stage 8 martial artists. Was Zhang Qian really that powerful? When Zhang Qian returned, his cultivation was already at the peak of pulse condensation stage 8. In addition to his rich combat experience, he could even fight a pulse condensation stage 9 martial artist. Moreover, during this time, he hasn't shown himself. It is rumored that he has already broken through to pulse condensation stage 9 and will soon challenge a core disciple. Challenge a core disciple? Lin Xian's face was dignified. No wonder no one was optimistic about him. Zhang Qian actually had such strength. I will now teach you a protective sword art. Although it cannot increase your attack power, it can increase your chances of survival. Morong Qianling said. Protective sword art? Lin Xian's heart stirred. Instructor Morong wanted to privately teach him martial arts. No wonder she had summoned him alone. There is still more than a day left. How much you can learn will depend on your perception. Next, Morong Qianling displayed a defensive martial art. The blue spirit power on her body transformed into a purple sword light that twined around her body and flowed freely. Sword energy was an extremely powerful attack, but if it was used as a defense, the effect would be surprisingly good. Lin Xian paid close attention, taking in all the details. With just one look, he had memorized the entire path of energy flow. It seems that your talent in the path of the sword is heaven-defying. Morong Qianling couldn't hide the shock in her eyes. After bidding farewell to Morong Qianling, Lin Xian returned to his residence and began to study the protective sword art. This set of martial arts was called the Severing Origin Protective Sword Art. It was divided into 3 levels. At the first level, the sword energy was blue, and it was difficult for an ordinary sword to injure it. At the second level, the sword energy was purple, and it could withstand an attack of the same level for a short period of time. There was also a certain chance of injuring the opponent. At the third level, the sword energy was red, and it could withstand an attack of a high-level martial artist. The difference between the two could not exceed 2 small stages. In other words, if Lin Xian was able to cultivate the red sword qi to protect his body, then he would be able to block an attack from a meridian stage 9 martial artist. If he used it well, he could even retreat unscathed. This indirectly provided him with the possibility of fighting above his level. With his small success in sword presence, he could do many things in the instant he defended. Instructor Morong's sword qi is purple. Looks like she has reached the 2nd level. I wonder what level I can reach. Lin Xian slowly closed his eyes. According to the chants, Lin Xian urged the spiritual energy in his body to walk a complicated path. During this time, the mysterious little sword in his body glowed with a glazed light. Under the illumination of the glazed light, Lin Xian's spiritual energy circulated very smoothly. In just one attempt, he condensed the protective sword qi. Buzz! On the surface of his body, a green sword qi wrapped around his body and covered him. From afar, It looked like a huge green snake was coiled around his body. Lin Xian's finger was like a sword. The tip of his finger spat out sword energy. He urged the sword energy to slash at the protective sword qi. When the two collided, there was a sizzling sound. Lin Xian could clearly feel a strong resistance coming from the protective sword qi, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Halfway through the slash, the sword energy at the tip of his finger was already very weak, and it was still more than a foot away from Lin Xian's body. He retracted his hand and sat down cross-legged. The first time he used the protective sword qi, the effect was surprisingly good, but he was still not satisfied. In his opinion, he had to at least reach the second level, or modify the first level. For the rest of the time, he devoted himself to studying the protective sword qi. With the help of the mysterious little sword, after half a day, his protective sword qi had already turned a dark green color. This was already the appearance of the large success of the first level. If Murong Qianling knew about this, she would definitely cry out in shock. She spent more than half a month to reach the first level, but Lin Xian only used half a day to complete it. The gap between them was too big. One must know that Murong Qianling was once a core disciple, so her talent was definitely not bad. However, compared to Lin Xian, the difference was too big. Of course, this was mostly due to the mysterious little sword in Lin Xian's body. It was it that allowed Lin Xian to become a sword genius. Now, his defensive power was much stronger than before. He experimented with the sword energy at the tip of his finger. That sword energy could only cut the edge before it was quickly extinguished. Lin Xian rubbed his chin and pondered. If he were to hide the lightning, what would the effect be? Since he could not reach the second level in a short time, he might as well experiment with the golden lightning. He urged the sword Intense Seed to release a golden electric arc. Under his guidance, it quickly climbed up the protective sword qi. Outside the dark green protective sword qi, there was a layer of surging golden electric arc, crackling with sparks. The momentum was astonishing. However, Lin Xian did not have any joy. He found that the two were not very compatible. Without any frustration, he continued to study. In the following time, he tried different ways to use the lightning. In the end, he found a way. It was not to directly cover the protective sword qi with the golden electric arc, but to suddenly release the golden electric arc when the protective sword qi was defending. This would catch the opponent off guard. Not only could it cause mental pressure, but it could also use the anesthetic effect of the golden electric arc to paralyze the opponent and put the enemy in a state of electric shock. He kept trying, and when he was tired, he would comprehend the sword Intense Seed. Soon, 2 days passed. On a new day, the sun was covered by dark clouds, and the weather was slightly cold. Although the weather was cold, the inner disciples were in a fiery mood. Today was the day of the life and death duel between Lin Xian and Zhang Qiansheng. Many inner disciples had appeared. It could be said that other than those who were outside on missions, the other inner disciples had rushed to the life and death arena. Lin Xian, accompanied by Luo Qingshan and Yi Qing, also rushed to the life and death arena. Along the way, the three of them attracted countless gazes. Some were curious, some were sympathetic, some were disdainful, and some were mocking. Brother Luo, good morning. Ling Zhe, who was in a blue shirt, walked over and looked at Lin Xian with a hint of coldness in his eyes. This is the person who is competing with senior brother Zhang? He will probably die tragically on the arena. How pitiful! Ling Zhe led a group of people to mock him mercilessly. Get lost! Lin Xian's face was cold as he scolded Ling Zhe. Kid, you dare to scold me? Ling Zhe was stunned at first, then he was furious. He had wanted to kill Lin Xian for a long time. Now that Lin Xian was participating in the life and death battle, he wanted to see helplessness, fear, and regret on Lin Xian. In the end, Lin Xian was surprisingly calm and even dared to scold him. Young Master Ling, ignore him. He only has a little time left to live. Of course he will act crazy, someone advised. Humph, kid, I will enjoy the expression on your face when you die. Ling Zhe led a group of people away with a sneer. Junior brother Lin Yu, Luo Qingshan, and Yi Qing wanted to say something but stopped. They had tried to persuade Lin Xian more than once, but to no avail. Don't worry, I will win. Lin Xian's eyes flashed with sword light. The three of them quickly walked to the life and death arena. Chapter 86. The life and death ring was not a sparring match, but a battle of life and death. Once on the life and death ring, one of them would definitely fall. At this moment, the life and death ring was crowded with people. Many inner disciples had arrived early for fear of missing such a battle. After all, it had been many years since anyone had used the life and death ring. Do you think that Lin Xian has a chance of winning? Stop joking. He's just a kid who just entered the inner sect. How can he defeat Zhang Qian? He must have made a name for himself in the outer sect. He's so arrogant that he doesn't take the inner sect seriously. It's good for him to die, said a disciple of the divine might group. To be able to get first place in the outer sect, his talent must be good. However, it's a pity that he's destined to die on the life and death ring. The surrounding disciples discussed animatedly. Some of them did not even know Lin Xian's name. It was no wonder that Lin Xian did not participate in the ranking battle on the stone tablet when he entered the inner sect. It was normal that most people did not know him. In the crowd, not only were there veteran inner sect disciples, but there were also young men who entered the inner sect with Lin Xian. Jiang Yulong followed behind a young man in white with a cold expression. On the other side, Duan Fei's eyes flashed. Beside him were Tang Yi and the other members of the combat group. Shengguan, Luyun, Yin Qingyi, and the rest were also standing in the crowd. They looked nervous as they waited for Lin Xian's arrival. Zhang Qian is here, someone shouted. Immediately, everyone's gazes shifted over. In front of them was a young man in purple with a battle saber on his back. His face was cold as ice. Beside him was a young man in blue. The two of them strode towards the life and death ring. Zhang Qian raised his head and nodded at the young man in white in front of Jiang Yulong. He then jumped onto the life and death ring. The young man in blue went to the young man in white. Zhang Qian is here. Why isn't Lin Xian here yet? Someone in the crowd complained. That's right. I think he doesn't dare to come. Don't fight the life and death ring if you're afraid of death. Many disciples cursed in a low voice. Zhang Qian frowned slightly. However, he was already on the life and death ring, so he could not say anything. Just as everyone was getting impatient, Lin Xian finally appeared. Calm and unhurried, Lin Xian appeared on the life and death arena in a flash. This decisiveness made the disciples who were waiting slightly stunned. It seemed that this Lin Xian wasn't someone who was deliberately stalling for time. Sensing Lin Xian's aura, Zhang Qian, who was standing opposite him, suddenly opened his eyes. A shocking killing intent erupted from his body. His cold eyes were like blades, seemingly wanting to slice Lin Xian into countless pieces. What a terrifying murderous aura! The 30-foot-long saber light cut through the air, and a terrifying fissure dozens of feet long appeared on the ground. Whoosh! Lin Xian appeared at Zhang Qian's side, his palms glowing with a golden light. Golden thunder palm. With a wave of his palm, a sky full of golden palm shadows enveloped Zhang Qian. This is... The others were fine, as they were only shocked by the strength of the two. However, the blue-clothed youth Ling Zhe's pupils shrank. He was very familiar with this move because it was his bodyguard's signature move. It seems that He really died at his hands. Ling Zhe's expression was ferocious. At the same time, there was a trace of fear in his heart. That day, the black-clothed martial artist was a rank 8 martial artist, and Lin Xian was only a rank 6 martial artist. There was a difference of 2 realms between the two, but Lin Xian was still able to kill him. Ling Zhe did not dare to imagine what the result of today's life and death battle would be. On the life and death stage, Zhang Qian sneered. He waved his saber and destroyed all the golden palm shadows. Then, an even sharper saber light rushed towards Lin Xian. Frenzied saber flurry. In an instant, dozens of dazzling saber lights flew out and slashed towards Lin Xian from various angles. On the other hand, Lin Xian's body swayed, leaving streaks of golden shadows on the ground. None of the blade auras that filled the air were able to hit him. What a fast speed! Is he still a rank 7 meridians condensation stage martial artist? Many people widened their eyes. In the crowd, Duan Fei also had an expression of disbelief. Lin Xian's current speed had completely surpassed his, which was a huge blow to him. After all, speed was his strongest move, but now he was surpassed by someone else. This feeling was hard to imagine. Lin Xian's speed reached a new height. He was like a ghost as he arrived in front of Zhang Qian. His right palm shone with golden light as he slapped towards Zhang Qian's back. Boom, boom. A loud sound shook everyone's eardrums. On the life and death stage, an arrogant laughter sounded. Then, a figure quickly retreated. This figure was Lin Xian. His palm did hit Zhang Qian, but it did not have any effect because it did not even break through his protective spirit energy. Ha ha! With your strength, you can't break through my protective spirit energy. I can kill you in one strike. Zhang Qian raised his saber high with a crazed expression. Chapter 87. Zhang Qian's laughter shook the sky, and the long blade in his hand was dazzling. Lin Xian, Yi Qing, and the others were extremely nervous. If what Zhang Qian said was true, then Lin Xian's situation would be very dangerous. Junior sister Yi, don't worry. Junior brother Lin Xian hasn't used his sword yet. Luo Qingshan would never forget the scene on the wind cliff that day. He had some inexplicable trust in Lin Xian. Body protection? Lin Xian whispered, then flicked his storage ring, and the red flame sword appeared in his hand. Gale sword technique. Lin Xian used his strongest sword technique as soon as he made a move, and the green airflow strangled in all directions. Matte blade chaos. Zhang Qian's blade technique changed again. The blade flashed, and a scorching heat appeared in the air, as if a sea of fire had descended. Lin Xian felt like he was in a sea of fire, and the monstrous flames wanted to swallow him. He felt a burning pain, and the power of fire was crazily destroying his body. Protective sword Qi. Lin Xian coldly snorted, and a dark green sword Qi covered his body, pushing away the surrounding sea of fire. Phantom thunder step. He flashed again, and arrived in front of Zhang Qian. It's useless, you can't break my defense. Zhang Qian grinned, and opened up his body protection. At the same time, the long blade in his hand mercilessly slashed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's body glowed with a green light. He didn't dodge, and also fiercely attacked. Seeing this, the people below the stage exclaimed, "What an idiot! He actually dares to meet senior brother Zhang head-on. Doesn't he know the gap between him and senior brother Zhang? Too arrogant. He'll probably be cut in half." The group of people shook their heads and sighed. They didn't think that Lin Xian could break Zhang Qian's defense. Murong Qianling also frowned. She was dissatisfied with Lin Xian's arrogance, but she was more surprised by Lin Xian's abnormal comprehension. In just 2 days, Lin Xian actually practiced the Severing Essence Protection Sword technique to the first level. One had to know that it took her half a month to reach the first level, and her aptitude was one of the top 10 in the Black Heaven sect. This kind of genius, we definitely can't let him die in this kind of place. Murong Qianling's eyes flickered. At this time, the result of the collision on the life and death arena was also revealed. Boom, boom, boom. The green and red lights intertwined, their momentum shaking the heavens. Zhang Qian's saber slashed down onto Lin Xian's body, causing a chi-chi sound to ring out. The protective sword chi around Lin Xian's body was cut in half by the saber, causing it to be stuck there, unable to move. Lin Xian was overjoyed. Under his full power, the protective sword chi was indeed powerful. Even Zhang Qian was unable to break through it. However, Zhang Qian would never use all his strength to defend himself, because Lin Xian's cultivation was not worth it for him to do so. Lightning! Lin Xian quickly activated the golden arcs of lightning. His body swayed as he attacked. Golden arcs of lightning suddenly appeared and enveloped an area of 3 feet. Zhang Qian was the first to bear the brunt of the lightning, and the lightning entered his body. Suddenly, he felt a numbing sensation. The circulation of spiritual power in his body slowed down by 30%. If it was a normal day, this would not affect him much. However, facing Lin Xian, this short pause was fatal. Combined with the power of his small success sword force, Lin Xian's saber directly broke through Zhang Qian's protective shield, leaving a sword mark on his body. This process happened in an instant. Lin Xian's sword force was only condensed on the blade and did not release it. Moreover, after his attack succeeded, he immediately retreated. It was not that he did not want to attack, but that he felt a great sense of danger. Lin Xian turned into a blur as he quickly retreated. In the next moment, a powerful force exploded from Zhang Qian's body, destroying everything within 30 feet. The entire ground caved in. "Bastard, you dare to injure me!" Zhang Qian roared like a wounded beast. "What? Zhang Qian is injured." Most of the disciples present could not see what had happened. Only a few disciples above the 8th level of the meridian's condensation stage, and elders could see everything clearly. The faces of Jiang Yulong, Shangguan Luyun, and the others changed drastically, while Tang Yi and the other experts frowned slightly. They naturally saw what happened just now. While Zhang Qian was careless, Lin Xian's attack was not to be underestimated, especially that sword strike. It made their hearts palpitate. However, regarding Lin Xian's performance, people were more shocked by Zhang Qian's transformation. This aura, could it be the 9th level of the meridian's condensation stage? Many people exclaimed. This aura was too shocking. It was like a mountain suffocating them. Lin Xian's disciple is not simple, but Zhang Qian's performance is even more shocking. He has actually reached the 9th level of the meridian's condensation stage. It seems that he has the ability to challenge the core disciples. The law enforcement elders' eyes flashed. After the competition, I will accept Zhang Qian as a nominal disciple. Elder Shui stroked his beard and smiled. Lin Xian is a rare sword genius. If he falls here, it will be a great loss to the sect. I hope the law enforcement elder can make a decision. Murong Qianling was very anxious. If Zhang Qian was at the 8th level of the meridian's condensation stage, then Lin Xian would have a chance to win. But now, the disparity between the two was too great. Martial Niece Murong, the life and death arena has its own rules. We will not interfere, Elder Shui said slowly. Lin Xian looked at Zhang Qian and took a deep breath. A 9th level of the meridian's condensation stage was more troublesome than he had imagined. However, it was impossible for him to give up like this. He still had some tricks up his sleeve. He might have a chance to make a comeback. Boy, if you can make me use my full strength, then you can die in peace. After Zhang Qian exploded with the strength of a 9th level meridian's condensation stage, he was particularly confident. Feeling this power, Lin Xian's face paled. Although this aura is strong, there is still a gap between it and a true ninth-level meridian's condensation stage. It seems that Zhang Qian has just entered the ninth level, and his realm is still unstable. Lin Xian calmly analyzed. A golden light flashed in his eyes, as if he wanted to pierce through Zhang Qian. A surprise attack is no longer possible. He is already on guard. The only thing I can do now is to strike him directly and cause his heart to waver. Only then will I have a chance. Lin Xian instantly thought of a plan. Only by destroying Zhang Qian's confidence would he be able to survive. Thinking of this, Lin Xian used all his strength to communicate with the seed of sword intent. A sharp sword force surged out from his body, as if it wanted to pierce through the heavens. At this moment, the swords of all the disciples below the life and death arena involuntarily began to hum and tremble. It was as if they had met a supreme king and were bowing down in worship. What happened? The disciples were shocked and tried their best to control their swords. This aura, the law enforcement elder, and the others' faces changed. They stared at Lin Xian, their eyes full of disbelief. Sword force, true sword force. The law enforcement elder couldn't help but exclaim. Even Elder Shui had a dignified expression. The other disciples stared blankly at Lin Xian. Jiang Yulong's entire body trembled. Looking at the figure on the stage, a sense of powerlessness arose in his heart. This sword force was different from the one they had seen during the outer sect competition. At that time, it was a scene that was produced when one's martial arts had been practiced to perfection. It was called sword force, but it wasn't true sword force. Lin Xian was now releasing true sword force. Every movement was filled with an invisible power. It was like a peerless divine sword, revealing its sharpness. Feeling this sword force, Murong Qianling was shocked once again. It's only been a few days, but his sword force is even more powerful than last time. It has already surpassed the small success of sword force. Chapter 88. Lin Xian's sword presence attracted everyone's attention. Even Zhang Qian was shocked. I must kill him quickly. Zhang Qian had a bad premonition. Blood wave triple slash. The long saber glowed with a red light, like a sea of blood. Zhang Qian's spirit power surged. He held the saber with both hands, raised it above his head, and slashed down. The red saber light was like a wave of blood. It carried a sinister aura as it drew a 5-meter-long arc of light in the air, rushing towards Lin Xian. With one slash, half of the life and death arena was covered. Is this the power of a rank 9 condensing meridians? Too savage. The surrounding disciples exclaimed. This power was more than twice as strong as before. Whirlwind clouds. Lin Xian activated the power of the sword presence and used the Gale sword art. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 green whirlwinds, each of which was more than 6 meters tall, whizzed out. They formed countless gusts of wind and rushed into the blood-red waves. Lin Xian waved his sword again, creating another 3 whirlwinds. Each whirlwind was strengthened by the power of the sword presence. The invisible power stirred the surroundings. The air shook like a raging wave. The blood wave was torn into countless pieces, disappearing into the whirlwinds. What? He can actually break Zhang Qian's attack. Is this the true power of the sword presence? It's too strong. The underground disciples exclaimed. Zhang Qian's face was pale. The long saber in his hand continued to slash. He had completely used the blood wave triple slash, but it was all dissolved by Lin Xian's sword presence. He had never expected this result. For a moment, a strong sense of defeat surged in his heart. On the other hand, Lin Xian became more and more courageous. Ever since he used the sword presence, he didn't use any movement skills. Instead, he stood in the same place, swinging his sword fiercely. Seeing Zhang Qian's expression, Lin Xian was happy. His plan had worked. In fact, after using the sword presence so many times, he was very weak. However, he and Zhang Qian were competing with confidence and willpower. The seed of sword intent not only strengthened his attacks, but also constantly changed his soul and belief. His willpower and confidence in martial arts far exceeded those of his peers, reaching a height that others could only look up to. On the other hand, Zhang Qian was getting weaker and weaker. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. Humph! A cold snort resounded in the air like a clap of thunder. Lin Xian's expression changed. This was a warning from Elder Shui, and it was very likely to disrupt his plans. Sure enough, Zhang Qian was startled awake by this voice, and his back was covered in cold sweat. Why would I admit defeat? I am a 9th stage meridian condensation martial artist. How could I be afraid of a 7th stage meridian condensation martial artist? Zhang Qian's eyes grew brighter and brighter, and his aura gradually recovered. His originally dim spirit energy was once again suffused with a blood-red glow. I won't lose. Zhang Qian threw his head back and roared. His blood-colored aura surged up into the sky, and it almost seemed as if his saber were becoming one with him. Zhang Qian's transformation caused everyone to cry out in alarm once again, while Elder Shui's expression eased up quite a bit. The law enforcement elder glanced at Elder Shui and did not say anything. After all, Elder Shui was also an elder and had the same status as him. There was no need to anger him over a little brat, but to the side, Morong Qianling frowned. Elder Shui's actions clearly broke the rules, but she had no right to stop him. Lin Xian also cursed inwardly. He could not allow Zhang Qian to recover. Slash! With a cold shout, Lin Xian urged the seed of sword intent with all his strength. In the next moment, it was as if he had become one with the seed of sword intent, and the sword aura on his body rose once again. It was as if a giant sword was standing between heaven and earth. It's here, it's this aura, Luo Qingshan muttered. He had seen this sword aura at Wind Resisting Cliff last time. What? How can he still increase it? Not only was Zhang Qian stunned, but everyone was stunned. Lin Xian slowly raised his sword and slowly slashed down. His movements were very slow, but Zhang Qian could not dodge it at all. It was as if this was not a sword, but a giant mountain that directly smashed down, making it difficult to dodge. Puff! Zhang Qian's face was pale as he spat out blood and flew backwards. He was defeated by this vast and boundless aura. His faith seemed to have been destroyed in an instant, and his eyes dimmed. Whoosh! Lin Xian used the phantom thunder steps, and his body flashed out like lightning. The long sword in his hand turned into a green gust of wind, aiming for Zhang Qian's vitals. This was not an arena battle, but a battle of life and death. There was no victory or defeat, only life and death. Bang! An invisible force blocked between him and Zhang Qian, like a chasm that was difficult to cross. Lin Xian was pushed back by this force. His blood and qi roiled, and he almost spat out blood. It was too powerful, and not something a pulse-condensing realm martial artist could use. Suppressing the roiling spiritual power in his body, Lin Xian suddenly turned around, and his eyes were as cold as water. In front of him was the law enforcement elder, and the others. Among them, Elder Shui stood up from his chair and raised one hand slightly. He was the one who stopped Lin Xian. Whoosh! Everyone turned to look at Elder Shui. Even the law enforcement elder beside him frowned slightly, his expression darkening. What is the meaning of this, Elder? Lin Xian asked in a low voice. You have already won. Where it is possible to make mistakes, one should be lenient. Elder Shui said indifferently. At the same time, he secretly transmitted a message to the law enforcement elder. The three sects' martial competition was about to begin, and they could not lose a disciple like Zhang Qian. Lin Xian's heart sank. The thing he was most worried about had happened. Zhang Qian was a vicious person who held grudges, and his aptitude was not bad. If he let him go now, it was very likely that he would be killed by him in the future. Lin Xian would not do this, and he did not believe Elder Shue's words. If he was the one who lost, Elder Shue would not have stopped him. The life and death arena has its own rules. I hope Elder will not interfere. Lin Xian was expressionless. The disciples below were shocked. Lin Xian dared to contradict an elder. He did not want to live anymore. Elder Shue's face was gloomy. He had said the same thing to Morong Qianling, but he did not expect Lin Xian to return it so quickly. However, he was an elder of the sect. How could he allow a small disciple to offend him? How dare you? This is the sect's decision. How dare you disobey? Elder Shue suddenly shouted. A vast aura surged out from his body, forming an invisible hand that pressed down on Lin Xian. The law enforcement elder sighed, while the faces of Morong Qianling and the others changed greatly. This force was abnormally huge. It was like a huge mountain that pressed down on Lin Xian's body. In just a moment, his body suffered a heavy blow. The bones in his body made a sound, and countless blood beads emerged from his body. It was as if he had turned into a bloody man. Do you know your mistake? Elder Shue said indifferently. Wrong? What did I do wrong? I don't accept such an unfair decision. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said, Humph. Elder Shue snorted coldly, and the force increased again. Elder Shue, what you're doing is unfair. Don't forget that countless disciples are watching you. Morong Qianling could not help but speak up. You also want to rebel against the sect. Elder Shue suddenly made a move and restrained Morong Qianling. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian's heart sank. He looked up to the sky and laughed. His smile was bleak. It was a life and death battle, but because the opponent was an elder's disciple, he was forced to stop. He refused to resist but was mercilessly suppressed. The world was unfair, and people were not righteous. Everything was because he was weak. If he was strong, no one would dare to treat him like this. If he had an elder behind him, Elder Shue would not dare to make a move. No one can control my will. Lin Xian's body suddenly underwent an astonishing change. Chapter 89. At this moment, the unyielding will within Lin Xian's body completely erupted. The sword intent seed trembled and fused into it. The mysterious small sword in his body shone brightly and wrapped around him. A tyrannical aura erupted from his body and collided with Elder Shue's power. Pung, pung, pung. The life and death arena shook. A long sword phantom appeared above Lin Xian's body and broke through everything. The pressure on his body also gradually receded. Elder Shue's expression changed slightly. He could feel Lin Xian's resistance, but he didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to break through his pressure. One had to know that the difference between the two of them was huge. Lin Xian was only a 7th-stage meridian condensation realm martial artist, but Elder Shue had already stepped into the Spirit Sea realm. Although he didn't use spirit power, the pressure from his realm was not something any meridian condensation realm martial artist could withstand. Stubborn resistance. Elder Shue's palms suddenly pressed down, and the entire void froze. Lin Xian's body was pressed down again, but in the next moment, he released a huge sword soul phantom and broke through all obstacles. Elder Shue's power was completely broken, but Lin Xian's aura was still rising. What? How is this possible? He can actually block the elder's attack. All the disciples were dumbstruck. Elder Shue's pupils shrank. The disciplinary elder and the others beside him were shocked. This aura, The disciplinary elder was excited. This is a large success, sword force. No, it's already surpassed large success. It contains a trace of will. Sword intent. Could it be sword intent? The disciplinary elder's eyes flashed. At this moment, Lin Xian's will merged with the sword intent in his body and erupted with an unparalleled aura. This wasn't the power of spirit power cultivation, but a transformation of the spirit and soul. The dark clouds in the sky were pierced and scattered, as if they were split apart by Lin Xian's sword. The sun shone on the life and death arena. Lin Xian was expressionless. The sword light in his eyes flickered, and his every move carried a fierce aura. On the life and death arena, I will live and he will die. Lin Xian drew his sword and drew an arc in the air. No, Zhang Qian was terrified. Even if he had the power of a rank 9 Ningmai, he couldn't use it at this moment. Although his cultivation was higher than Lin Xian's, his willpower and conviction were far inferior. Junior, you dare. Elder Shui was furious. His body flickered with radiance, as if a divine flame was jumping about. As the sword chi flashed by, a bloody hole appeared in Zhang Qian's glabella, and he collapsed to the ground. Lin Xian turned and faced Elder Shui without fear. Everyone, stop. Just as Elder Shui was enraged, a majestic voice rang out from the void. Immediately after, several powerful auras appeared in the surroundings. These auras were extremely powerful, some of them far surpassing Elder Shui's. Sword intent. It really is sword intent. Although it's only a trace, it's definitely sword intent. In the void, a purple-robed man sat high in the clouds. His eyes were like divine light as he stared at Lin Xian. Linger. A woman in palace attire appeared beside Morong Qianling. With a wave of her jade-like hand, she pulled Morong Qianling to her side. Master! Morong Qianling cried out in surprise. At the same time, several figures appeared. They were all elders of the sect. These people looked at Lin Xian with excited expressions. Are you willing to worship me as your master? The majestic man in the clouds asked. Senior Brother Duanmo, this young man is Linger's half-disciple. If he wants to worship someone, he should worship me. The woman in palace attire said. The surroundings were in an uproar. These elders were actually fighting to accept Lin Xian as their disciple. This change was too fast. First, Lin Xian was suppressed by Elder Shui. In the blink of an eye, Lin Xian was actually being fought over by the elders. Elder Shui's gaze was uncertain, and his face was ashen. The law-enforcing elder beside him also smiled bitterly. Lin Xian was also stunned. He didn't expect such an outcome. For a moment, he was stunned, not knowing what to do. At that moment, a lazy voice sounded in his mind. I think that kid in the sky is not bad. Why don't you worship him as your master? Lord Alcohol. Lin Xian was pleasantly surprised. Are you awake? I was woken up by you, Lord Alcohol said lazily. We'll talk about this when we get back. Hurry up and choose. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said respectfully, Thank you, seniors, for your kindness. However, I already have a master, so I can't worship any of you as my master. What? He actually rejected it. The group of intersect disciples were about to go crazy. Did this kid know what he was talking about? These people were definitely old monsters in the sect. If he could worship one of them as his master, he would definitely have a meteoric rise in the future. Not only were the disciples stunned, but even the group of elders were also stunned. In that case, I won't make things difficult for you. The purple-robed man in the clouds sighed. However, as a disciple of the Mystic Sky sect, I hope you can bring honor to the Mystic Sky sect in the future. Seniors, don't worry. I will definitely work hard. Lin Xian said. In the spectator stands, Elder Shui's body slowed down as he heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Lin Xian would make things difficult for him after becoming the disciple of the purple-robed man in the clouds. What a fool! Elder Shui sneered inwardly. As long as Lin Xian's identity didn't change, he had plenty of ways to make things difficult for him. Xiao Xuanzi, why don't I know that you have a master? Lord Alcohol was curious. You are my master. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. Lord Alcohol. Lin Xian's eyes darted around as he said again, Seniors, Elder Shui's attack just now has damaged my soul and mind. I hope that you can give me some spirit herbs. Oh, the experts immediately looked at Elder Shui, especially the purple-robed man in the clouds. His eyes were like two divine flames as they landed on Elder Shui. Elder Shui's body trembled as his eyes were filled with fear. He cursed inwardly as he gritted his teeth and took out a palm-sized herb from his storage ring. This is a 1,000-year-old ghost needle herb. It has great effects on soul recovery, Elder Shui said, as he endured the pain. Thank you, Elder. Lin Xian received the herb and flipped his palm, handing it to Lord Alcohol. Kid, not bad, Lord Alcohol said with a smile. All right, you may all disperse. The purple-robed man's voice echoed in the air as he vanished. The others quickly left as well. Elder Shui glared at Lin Xian before flicking his sleeve and leaving with a gloomy expression. Lin Xian was secretly on guard. Although he had used the purple-robed man to suppress Elder Shui, he couldn't guarantee that Elder Shui wouldn't find trouble with him in the future. Zhang Qianyi is dead. Next, it's time to challenge the core disciples. Lin Xian's eyes were resolute. He still had a long way to go, so he couldn't let his guard down. Ignoring the astonished gazes of the crowd, Lin Xian quickly left. Wherever he passed, the inner sect disciples would make way for him. Their faces were filled with fear. Thinking back to when they first entered the inner sect, most of them wore looks of disdain. But now, facing Lin Xian, apart from the core disciples, most of them had to retreat. Duan Fei, Jiang Yulong, and company wore bitter expressions. The youth who had been competing with them a few days ago was now far ahead of them. It was so much that they could only look up to him. As for Shengguan Luyun, his eyes flickered as his fighting spirit soared. In the crowd, there was a pair of venomous eyes staring at Lin Xian's back. It was a blue-robed youth. His eyes were terrifyingly gloomy. Chapter 90. Murong Qianling looked at Lin Xian's back as her eyes flashed. Behind her, the woman in palace attire sighed. With his strength, I estimate that he will soon challenge the core disciples. At that time, he might be able to enter the trial grounds of blood. Trial grounds of blood, Murong Qianling exclaimed. The trial grounds that open once every 7 years. The woman in palace attire smiled. This time, a batch of disciples with potential will be sent in. Even you will have a chance to enter. This time, you must seize the opportunity. Trial grounds of blood. Murong Qianling's eyes had a trace of excitement. Lin Xian was unaware of these matters. He returned to his residence and activated a simple defensive array. Then he treated his injuries and consolidated his realm. Inside his body, his spiritual energies potential had been stimulated under Elder Shui's pressure. The 8th spirit vein had loosened a lot. Lin Xian took this opportunity to constantly circulate the longevity art. For hours later, he broke through to the 8th stage of the meridian condensation stage. The internal injuries on his body were quickly healed under the effects of the longevity art. Lin Xian turned his gaze to the sword Intent Seed. The golden sword Intent Seed was much larger than before. The aura it emitted was alarming. Lin Xian knew that he had finally comprehended a trace of sword intent, and not just sword force. I didn't expect your sword Intent Seed to germinate so quickly. Lord Alcohol was amazed. You now have both the thunder and wind attributes. You can consider fusing them into the wind and thunder attributes, since you have acknowledged me as your master. I will teach you well, Lord Alcohol said with a serious expression. Following that, Lord Alcohol began to ask about Lin Xian's cultivation progress, including some of the martial arts he had learned. Lin Xian answered them one by one. Through his communication with Lord Alcohol, he learned that he had only reached the first level of the longevity art. Other than the long sword art, he had reached the large success stage of the Phantom Thunder Steps. He could condense a Thunder Phantom. He was only missing the last move of the Gale sword art. As for the Protection sword art, he was at the peak of the first level. However, Lin Xian's greatest harvest was the seed of sword intent. He had comprehended a trace of sword intent, and it had increased his attack power by several times. Now, if he met a martial artist of the 9th stage meridian condensation period, he would be able to put up a fight. Moreover, the seed of sword intent also had many potential benefits. For example, Lin Xian's mental strength and willpower were extremely strong. This would allow him to have a strong resistance to temptation illusion attacks in the future. Under Lord Alcohol's guidance, Lin Xian began to consider fusing the Gale sword art and Lightning sword art together. The next morning, Lin Xian went to the herbal hall, as usual. His main purpose was to pay attention to a special mission, a mission to rescue the 100 Herb Hall, in which he could obtain herbs that could restore the soul. Although Lord Alcohol had awakened, Lin Xian hoped to have more of these herbs on hand just in case. This mission was still in progress, but according to the previous situations, the chances of success were not high. When Lin Xian asked again, the Deacon Elder informed him that the team that had accepted this mission had failed, and Lin Xian could accept it without any hesitation. He accepted the mission. However, this mission was a 6th level mission and was extremely dangerous. It was not something a single disciple could complete. This was a 5-person mission. Lin Xian took a token and went back to wait. 3 days later, news came from the herbal hall that there had been a new change to the mission. Lin Xian prepared everything and went to the herbal hall. However, he was somewhat surprised by what happened next. The Deacon Elder stood to the side with a wry smile and explained the reason to Lin Xian. It turned out that the number of disciples who had come to accept the mission had far exceeded the stipulated number. Isn't this mission very dangerous? Why are there so many people? Lin Xian was puzzled, because there was a core disciple who accepted the mission this time. So all the disciples rushed over like ducks, the Deacon Elder explained. In this situation, a simple competition is required. Only the strongest will have the chance to receive the mission. So that's how it is. Lin Xian understood. He strode over and said to the group of people, I took a token for the 100 Herb Hall mission. If anyone is unconvinced, you can challenge me. The quarreling crowd completely quieted down after hearing Lin Xian's words. The group of disciples looked at Lin Xian cautiously, their eyes full of fear. They had seen Lin Xian kill Zhang Qian with their own eyes. Furthermore, he did not back down in the slightest when facing Elder Shui. They did not dare to provoke such a fierce person. So it was junior brother Lin who took one of the tokens. If that's the case, let's fight for the remaining 3. A disciple chuckled. The Deacon Elder was surprised. He thought that these people would snatch it by force or even gang up to bully him. After all, Lin Xian's cultivation was not very high. However, he did not expect that when this group of people saw Lin Xian, it was as if they had seen a core disciple. They even spoke carefully. How strange. The Deacon Elder was amazed. Not long after, 3 people won the battle. These 3 people were all at the 8th level of the Meridian stage. 2 of them were youths, and 1 was a young girl. The 3 of them greeted Lin Xian, then stood together to wait for the other core disciple. Through the 3 disciples, Lin Xian learned that the core disciple was called Fan Chong. His cultivation was at the 9th level of the meridian stage, and he was ranked 9th on the stone tablet. Core disciples were definitely existences that all inner sect disciples had to look up to. Every core disciple was abnormally strong and could be said to be the king of the same stage. Even fighting across realms was not difficult for them. Therefore, this difficult level 6 mission became extremely popular with the addition of a core disciple. And this mission was a rescue mission. 100 Herb Hall was located in a border town in Yunzhou. Because it was attacked by demonic beasts, the town was in danger. Most of the people from 100 Herb Hall escaped, but a few of the pharmacists were trapped in the town, along with hundreds of precious herbs from 100 Herb Hall. The surviving members of 100 Herb Hall sent a request for help to the Black Heaven sect, and thus this mission was created. Lin Xian understood the mission while waiting for the core disciple to arrive. However, after the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, no one appeared. After an hour, still no one appeared. Could it be that senior apprentice Brother Fan forgot? A few disciples guessed. Lin Xian frowned slightly but did not say anything. After waiting for a full 2 hours, the core disciple finally appeared. This was a youth with an arrogant face. His eyes were always looking up, and even his chin was raised. He casually swept a glance at Lin Xian, and the others then frowned and said, "With such low cultivation, you're just going to die." The expressions of the 3 youths behind Lin Xian changed. They did not expect the core disciple to say such words. Although they could not compare to the core disciple, these words were too hurtful. Lin Xian also frowned slightly. He glanced at the people behind the core disciple and immediately understood that this guy wanted to bring his own people. However, he had accepted this mission first, and it was very important to him. How could he just give up like this? At this moment, the core disciple sneered and said, "Hurry up and take out your mission tokens, or else you'll have to bear the consequences." Chapter 91. Core disciple Fan Chong was very domineering. The moment he came up, he asked everyone to hand over their mission cards. The faces of the 3 disciples who received their mission cards became very ugly. The 3 of them looked at Lin Xian together. Fan Chong frowned and inadvertently glanced at Lin Xian. "You don't understand what I'm saying?" He didn't go to Lin Xian's life or death battle, so he didn't recognize Lin Xian. Among the core disciples, only 2 people had gone to watch. They were the leaders of the battle group and the divine might group. The other core disciples had no interest at all. Lin Xian said in a low voice, "We took this mission with great difficulty. You want us to give it up with just a few words? Isn't that too much?" "Too much? Do you think you people have the qualifications to do missions with me?" Fan Chong said disdainfully, "If you don't want to go with us, you can give it up." Lin Xian didn't back down at all. "Brat, do you know who I am?" Fan Chong was furious. He took a step forward, his body emitting a dangerous aura. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, "I'm not interested in knowing. Also, I won't give you the mission cards." "Senior Fan, he's Lin Xian." Someone behind Fan Chong whispered, "Lin Xian? The Lin Xian who killed Zhang Qian." Fan Chong froze and then retracted his aura. "If you really are that Lin Xian, then you can stay and do missions with me," Fan Chong said, "but the 3 of them must hand over their mission cards." Fan Chong forcefully snatched the 3 mission cards and then said in a commanding tone, "Brat, come with me." "Sorry, I won't do missions with scum like you," Lin Xian said indifferently. Hearing this, the nearby people's faces all changed. Fan Chong couldn't compare to Zhang Qian. He was a true core disciple, and his cultivation had long since entered the 9th stage of the meridian condensation period. "You're courting death." Fan Chong's eyes shone with a terrifying light, and the temperature within 3 zhang of him dropped. "Don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you killed Zhang Qian." In the eyes of core disciples, Zhang Qian isn't even worth a fart. Fan Chong's palm emitted a cold aura. His voice was like the winter wind and snow. I'll give you a chance. Come with me, otherwise you'll regret it, Deacon Elder. As you can see, I can't do the mission with this kind of person, so I've decided to complete the mission alone. After Lin Xian finished explaining to the disciplinary elder, he walked away. During the entire process, he didn't even look at Fan Chong. Very good. I haven't been angry in a long time. I hope you can let me play a little longer. Fan Chong laughed out of anger. He had already decided that he would kill Lin Xian during the mission. After all, the mission was extremely dangerous. Furthermore, Lin Xian was doing it alone. Even if Lin Xian died, no one would suspect anything. With a sneer, Fan Chong left with his group in a grandiose manner. Lin Xian was depressed. He had encountered scum like this while doing a mission. Not only did he snatch the mission, but he also ordered him around like a lackey. Do I look like a lackey? Lin Xian curled his lips. It looks like I'm not famous enough. That child has an ice elemental cultivation technique. It will be difficult for you to deal with him. Now, unless you fuse the wind and lightning sword arts together. Lord Alcohol's voice sounded. I still have time. I don't think he will take action anytime soon. Lin Xian nodded and sent a voice transmission. However, at my current level, isn't it too much of a stretch to fuse the cultivation techniques alone? Isn't there a direct wind and lightning cultivation technique? Yes, Lord Alcohol replied straightforwardly. Lin Xian was speechless. Then why did you make me fuse it myself? He roared like an angry lion cub. I just want to see how far you can go, Lord Alcohol explained. No matter how good someone else's cultivation technique is, it's still someone else's. Only the moves created by yourself are the most comfortable. Although you can't create them by yourself now, I want to nurture your consciousness. Lin Xian calmed down. He was just joking with Lord Alcohol. He understood this logic, so he tried to make some changes to every martial art. Let me see how difficult this so-called 6th level mission is. Lin Xian strode forward. In a hall in the sect, Elder Shui was sitting in a dignified manner. Elder Shui, not only did Lin Xian kill senior brother Zhang, he even contradicted you. He deserves death. Ling Zhe said hatefully, I've long found him an eyesore. Why don't you let me? Elder Shui looked up slightly and glanced at Ling Zhe indifferently. Then he slowly said, I think you have a grudge with him. You are still too inexperienced to use me as a tool. Ling Zhe's body trembled as he said respectfully, I wouldn't dare. However, if you can really eliminate Lin Xian, I'll take you in as an inherited teachings disciple. Upon hearing that, Ling Zhe suddenly looked up. His eyes were filled with excitement as he quickly said, Elder, don't worry. I'll definitely do it. He was overjoyed. He had only wanted to give it a try, but he never expected Elder Shui to use him as a condition to become an inherited teachings disciple. From the looks of it, Lin Xian really made him want to kill him. There were 2 types of elders' disciples. One was the nominal disciple. They were under the elder's tutelage in name. Normally, they would not receive any guidance from the elders. The other type was the inherited teachings disciple. This type of disciple had a very honorable status and was above the core disciples. For example, Murong Qianling was an inherited teachings disciple. Not only could she receive the inherited teachings of the elders, but she could also receive status and resources from the sect. Lin Xian, you've even offended the sect elders. Let's see how you'll escape this time. Achoo! Lin Xian rubbed his nose and muttered in dissatisfaction. What a scam. They actually didn't rent it to me. Just now, he had gone to the Imperial Beast Garden to rent a spiritual beast as a means of transportation. In the end, he was mercilessly rejected. The reason was that the place he was going to was too dangerous, and they wouldn't let him rent it. Lin Xian could only helplessly come out. He knew that the reason was just a pretense. The real reason was probably because someone was playing tricks. If it wasn't Elder Shui, then it was Fan Chong. Lin Xian guessed that Elder Shui might not have known that he was going on a mission. The most likely person was Fan Chong. Thinking about how those core disciples had the backing of the sect elders, it was very easy for them to secretly do something. You can treat this mission as an experience. There's no need to rush. Lord Alcohol said, "Who knows, you might encounter some soul-type herbs along the way. That's the only way." Lin Xian used his movement technique and transformed into a gust of wind as he moved quickly. 5 days later, in the forest, a three-eyed, white-spotted tiger was running quickly. Sitting on its back was a black-clothed youth. He had delicate features, but his eyes shone like a sword beam. The youth was like a stone sculpture. He sat on the tiger's back without moving an inch. Even if the tiger demon ran violently, it didn't affect him at all. Roar! A fey beast covered in scales suddenly tore out of the forest. Its steel-like, sharp claws grabbed at the youth on the tiger's back. Chi! Chi! The black-clothed youth used his fingers like a sword and gently swiped across the void. As though a golden line had floated past, the fey beast's body suddenly split into two from the middle. Blood and organs splattered across the ground. Counting the days, "It's about time," the black-clothed youth muttered to himself. He didn't even look at the dead fey beast. Chapter 92. The youth riding on the tiger demon was naturally Lin Xian. He hadn't rented a flying beast, so he could only walk. Later on, under Lord Alcohol's guidance, he stepped into a brand new realm, the soul realm. The root of this was the sword intent seed in his body. Not only could it strengthen his attack, but it could also strengthen his will and soul. Lin Xian had used the sword intent seed to form the embryonic form of a sword soul in his mind, allowing him to use some techniques. For example, he could see through illusions and control the mind. This rank 1 demon beast had been subdued by his powerful will. Lin Xian had used it as a means of transportation, and he had been studying how to use the sword soul to travel. Half a day later, the tall trees gradually became sparse. Lin Xian knew that he would soon be out of the forest. He patted the rank 1 demon tiger under him, urging it to speed up. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Xian looked around warily, his spirit energy ready to explode. Whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of streaks of black light flashed and attacked Lin Xian, making rapid sounds as they pierced through the air. Golden lightning palm. Lin Xian remained motionless. Golden arcs of lightning appeared in his palm, filling the sky with palm shadows. Bang, bang, bang. The black arrows collided with the golden palm shadows, creating waves of energy that broke the surrounding branches and branches. Whoosh, whoosh. After a round of sneak attacks, the black figures hiding behind the branches revealed themselves. Lin Xian looked over, and his expression changed slightly. Dozens of black figures were floating in the sky. These creatures had the bodies of humans and the heads of eagles. Their bodies were covered in black feathers, and a pair of huge black wings constantly flapped behind them. Demon beasts. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He jumped down from the demon tiger and focused. These eaglemen are rank 2 demon beasts, and their strength is equivalent to the early stage of meridian condensation stage 9. You'd better break out of the encirclement quickly, Lord Alcohol warned. Lin Xian's figure flashed as he used phantom thunder steps. He turned into an afterimage as he ran toward the exit of the forest. Behind him, the eaglemen chased after him. Whoosh, whoosh. The stage 2 eaglemen's flying speed was extremely fast, and they had bows and arrows in their hands, constantly attacking Lin Xian. Fortunately, they were in the middle of a forest, and there were many trees blocking their path. In addition, Lin Xian was constantly changing directions, so he was not injured. However, even so, Lin Xian was still a little embarrassed. This won't do. If I continue to run like this, once I leave the forest, they will definitely catch up to me. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He did not immediately leave the forest. Instead, he circled around the eaglemen. Try attacking. Lin Xian once again sent out palm shadows that filled the sky, and then jumped up, his body flying towards an eagleman. A green sword chi, with golden lightning arcs around it, quickly pierced towards the eagleman's chest. The eagleman let out a sharp cry, and at the same time, a pair of wings suddenly flapped down, forming two gusts of wind that pounced towards Lin Xian. Phantom thunder step. Lin Xian condensed a lightning phantom in the air, but his real body circled to the side, and the sword in his hand came crashing down. Bang! Two gusts of wind hit the phantom thunder figure, releasing an explosion of light. The eagleman was injured by Lin Xian's sword chi, and half of his body was almost cut off. Whoosh! Whoosh! The injured eagleman lost his balance, and his body kept falling. However, the rest of the eaglemen all pounced towards Lin Xian. All kinds of gusts of wind and arrows continuously attacked Lin Xian. Whirlwinds scattered clouds. Lin Xian waved his sword twice again, forming 6 whirlwinds on the ground. All of them were suffused with green wind blades and rushed forward. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in all directions. The two streams of air constantly collided, uprooting all the nearby trees and rolling them into the air. The eaglemen constantly flapped their wings to maintain their balance. Good chance. Lin Xian's body turned into a green lightning bolt and instantly rushed out. 3 gale thrusts. Protective sword chi. With the green sword chi protecting his body, Lin Xian suddenly stabbed out. 3 gale thrusts. Each was equivalent to an attack. Not only was it incomparably swift and fierce, but it also moved a very long distance. With the first stab, Lin Xian arrived in front of the injured eagleman. With the second stab, he took away his life. With the third stab, Lin Xian successfully escaped. All these movements happened in an instant. The eaglemen only saw 3 green sword lights in the air, and then Lin Xian's figure appeared, while the injured eagleman fell to the ground and died. With one successful attack, Lin Xian did not continue to fight. His body quickly disappeared into the forest. Behind him, the eaglemen were mad and furious. They let out miserable cries and madly rushed towards Lin Xian. Northgard City was a base of operations for humans. There were a large number of warriors and rich resources. It was also the closest base to the front line. There were many Sea of Soul realm warriors guarding it, making it very safe. There were not even many demon beasts nearby. At this time, on top of the city wall, some armored warriors were patrolling. They were mainly monitoring the situation in the air. At this time, someone noticed something unusual. Outside the city gate, several auras were rapidly approaching. These soldiers looked nervous and were ready to fight. Should we report? Someone asked. Wait, it doesn't seem to be a group of demon beasts. It's just a few demon beasts. Among them, a small leader said. Everyone looked carefully and found that it was indeed so. A black-clothed youth was running quickly like lightning. Behind him were 6 angry eaglemen. What a fast movement technique. Even the second-rank eaglemen can't catch up. A soldier exclaimed. He can actually escape from 6 eaglemen. He's not simple. The small leader was also shocked. Kill the eaglemen first, then interrogate him about his identity. Suddenly, several soldiers moved. Soon, 6 huge crossbows were set up, ready to shoot at any time. Release! With a command, 6 huge arrows flew out, each one more than 6 meters long, piercing through the air. Lin Xian used the Phantom Thunder Step and ran quickly. 9 eagle men were killed by him, but the remaining 6 tightly surrounded him. They did not separate, giving him no chance to attack. Fortunately, the city ahead was clearly visible. At this time, 6 black arrows flew out quickly. They were like 6 spears, flying with a gust of wind. Pung, 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 pung. The 6 eagle men behind him were nailed to the ground, their bodies twitching. So strong. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He could feel the power of the arrows. He was afraid that no one under the Spirit Sea realm would be spared. "Who are you?" A voice came from above the city wall. "I'm Lin Xian, a disciple of the Mysterious Skies sect. I'm here to participate in the rescue mission of the 100 Herb Hall under the orders of my sect." Lin Xian circulated his spiritual energy and said in a mighty voice. Soon, the huge bronze city gate opened. 2 groups of armored soldiers walked out and looked at Lin Xian cautiously. "Identity token," one of them said coldly. Lin Xian handed over the sect's disciple token and mission token. At the same time, he secretly sized up these soldiers. He found that these people's auras were strong. Their eyes were like knives. Moreover, they had a killing intent that ordinary disciples did not have. As expected of the front line, even ordinary soldiers are so strong. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. At this time, the soldiers also finished verifying Lin Xian's identity. One of the men with a scar on his face laughed loudly. "Little brother's skills are extraordinary. You can actually escape from 6 eagle men. You're indeed a heroic young man." Chapter 93. Lin Xian smiled modestly. If this group of people knew that not only did he successfully escape, but he also killed 3 of them, he wondered what their expressions would be. "Big brother, where is the 100 Herb Hall I'm going to?" Lin Xian asked. "Little brother, you should enter the city and wait for 2 days. This mission has already been upgraded. I'm afraid it's not something that can be completed by 1 or 2 people." "Upgraded?" Lin Xian was puzzled. This means that the mission's difficulty has increased. However, since he was already here, he had to try no matter how difficult it was. Lin Xian followed these people into the city. "I'll take you to the combat hall first." The scarred man smiled as he led the way. The layout of the city was similar to other cities, but there were no ordinary people here. They were all martial artists from the body refinement to the meridian condensation realm. Lin Xian found that those with lower cultivations were mostly in charge of logistics, while those with higher cultivations were in charge of defense. Along the way, Lin Xian kept looking around and marveled in his heart. Not long after, he followed the scarred man to a mansion. Inside, there were many halls and countless pavilions. This used to be the city lord's mansion, but it was now a base of operations. The scarred man said that the combat hall was inside. Soon, the 2 of them arrived at the combat hall. It was located in a secluded area of the city lord's mansion. Walking into the combat hall, Lin Xian found that there were already many people inside. Most of them were youths with cultivations above the 8th level of the meridian condensation realm. There were even some 9th level meridian condensation realm cultivators. These people were all young elites, disciples of sects and aristocratic families. Lin Xian's arrival naturally attracted the attention of others. In an instant, countless gazes were imprinted on him. Meridian condensation realm 8th level. So weak. Who is this kid? Many people were puzzled. Lin Xian's cultivation was not outstanding. At least among these people, he was at the bottom. However, in terms of strength, it was a different story. "This is Black Sky Sect's young hero Lin. He also participated in the 100 Herb Hall mission." The scarred man introduced. Young hero Lin managed to escape from 6 eagle men. And that's how he came to Beiwei City. The 6 eagle men have successfully escaped. Immediately, those disdainful gazes disappeared, and the youths in the hall began to seriously size up Lin Xian. Humph! A cold snort came from the front. Lin Xian raised his head and found Fan Chong sitting in front of him, his eyes dark. Everyone seemed to have noticed Fan Chong's abnormal reaction, and many of them had playful looks in their eyes. "When can we make our move?" Someone asked. "Are we supposed to keep waiting?" "It's like this. Originally, this was just a simple rescue mission. We only needed to rescue the people trapped in 100 Herb Hall." The scarred man continued. "However, a huge battle broke out in Mountain Overlook City not long ago. The situation there has become extremely dangerous. I'm afraid that it will be very difficult to rescue the people of 100 Herb Hall. Even if Mountain Overlook City is dangerous, it shouldn't be a problem if we dispatch some elites." Someone asked. "After that battle, the general was poisoned, and the key to curing the poison lies in 100 Herb Hall. Therefore, the demons will definitely send more people." The scarred man sighed. "I see." Lin Xian suddenly understood. It seemed that this mission wasn't simple. "However, everyone, don't worry. When the time comes, Deputy General Lord Zeng will lead the elites and move with you. Anyone who can help will receive battle merit points." Battle merit points. The youth's eyes lit up. Aside from the medicinal ingredients, they had participated in this mission for the battle merit points. Seeing Lin Xian's confusion, the scarred man explained, "These battle merit points can be exchanged for resources at any martial hall in Xia country. For example, secret manuals, divine weapons, etc. As long as you have enough battle merit points, you can exchange them." As for the battle merit points, it was distributed based on the completion of the mission and the performance of the enemy. Martial hall exchange for resources. Lin Xian nodded. He finally understood why these youths were so happy. It was because they could exchange for all kinds of resources. Xia country's martial halls couldn't be compared to ordinary sections. The things inside were all obtained by gathering the strength of an entire country. None of them were ordinary. At this moment, a young girl wearing a silver robe slowly walked over. Her long and narrow eyes were suffused with a cold light like gems. When the silver-robed girl walked into the main hall and saw Lin Xian, her aura suddenly fluctuated, as if an invisible mountain was pressing down on them. All the youths in the main hall tensed up and found it difficult to breathe. Spirit Sea Realm. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with fear. The silver-robed girl didn't look very old, about 16 or 17 years old. However, the aura on her body far surpassed everyone else. Fan Chong and the other rank 9 Meridian Condensation Stage martial artists were also shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. At the Spirit Sea Realm, 9 spirit veins converged and formed a spirit sea in the body. Once formed, a martial artist's body would undergo earth-shattering changes. However, not every rank 9 Meridian Condensation Stage martial artist could enter the Spirit Sea Realm. Many martial artists were stuck at this stage for decades. This was a common occurrence. However, this young girl had actually broken through to the Spirit Sea Realm at such a young age. Her talent was frightening. Fan Chong took a deep breath. Perhaps in the entire Black Sky sect, only the Myriad Sword Star could compare to her. The silver-robed girl was like a high and mighty king, looking down at everyone. To be more precise, she was looking at Lin Xian. "I didn't expect to meet you here, Lin Xian." The silver-robed girl's voice was cold, without a trace of anger. "Lin Xian? She actually knows Lin Xian." Fan Chong's pupils shrank. The others also looked at each other. "Hello, little Yu." Lin Xian tried his best to calm down. His heart was in turmoil. This young girl was actually from his clan, and also from the Sword Pool Manor's Lin family, Lin Yu. Humph. The silver-robed girl, Lin Yu, frowned. Her aura crazily rushed towards Lin Xian, as if wanting to devour him. Lin Xian's body also surged with an aura that was incomparably sharp, as if it could split everything in half. This name is not something you can call me by. Lin Yu's aura receded like the tide. Then she looked deeply at Lin Xian and left. Sword Pool Manor, one day I will return. Lin Xian's sharp aura also gradually faded away. This scene made everyone look at each other. How did this young man know such a proud girl? Moreover, their relationship was somewhat hostile. Lin Xian didn't explain to the crowd. Instead, it was the scarred man who explained the silver-robed girl's situation. A 16-year-old Spirit Sea realm martial artist, and also a master of weapon nurturing. She was in charge of the entire base's weapon nurturing. Lin Xian found a seat and sat down. His heart couldn't calm down. This Lin Yu's talent was only considered to be above average in the family. She wasn't the best, but she had already reached the Spirit Sea realm. He was afraid that those people would be even stronger. There's still a year and a half left. I must return to the family before then and obtain a spot to enter the ancestral land. Chapter 94. On the third day of Lin Xian's arrival in Northgard City, there was still no progress on the 100 Herb Hall mission. During this period, many warriors went out to kill enemies and earn battle merits. Lin Xian found the scarred man again and told him his thoughts. What? You want to repair weapons to earn battle merits? The scarred man was surprised. I didn't expect you to be a weapon nurturer. How about this? Follow me, said the scarred man. Lin Xian followed him to the center of the city. After passing through the residential area, the two of them arrived in front of a hexagonal pavilion. The scarred man didn't stop as he led Lin Xian to the third floor. Master, Mo, this is Lin Xian from the Black Heaven sect. He wants to repair weapons here to earn battle merits, said the scarred man respectfully. Oh, the Black Heaven sect? Master Mo looked at Lin Xian with interest. A smile appeared on his aged face. You know how to nurture weapons? A little. Lin Xian smiled. Try this. Master Mo handed Lin Xian a long saber. The blade was full of gaps and looked like it was about to be destroyed. Ordinary treasured weapons are worth repairing. If an ordinary weapon is damaged, it's better to forge a new one, said Lin Xian after taking a glance. Good. You do have good eyesight. This saber is indeed an ordinary item. Instead of being angry, Master Mo was delighted. Here are some low-grade, human-ranked treasured weapons. If you can repair them, I'll give you a satisfactory amount of battle merits. Lin Xian didn't stand on ceremony. He sat down and began to carefully repair the damaged, human-ranked treasured weapons. He didn't use the Sword Pool Manor's techniques. Instead, he used the techniques taught to him by Lord Alcohol to slowly repair them. 2 days later, all 6 human-ranked treasured weapons were repaired. They shimmered coldly under the sunlight. Master Mo was very happy and directly gave Lin Xian 30 battle merits. Over the past 2 days, Lin Xian had a certain understanding of battle merits. Killing a rank 1 demonic beast would give him 1 battle point. A rank 2 demonic beast would give him 5 battle points, and a rank 3 demonic beast would give him 20 battle points. After all, rank 3 demonic beasts were already equivalent to Sea of Souls realm warriors. Lin Xian repairing 6 artifacts was equivalent to killing 6 second-order demonic beasts. Don't underestimate a little bit of battle merit. In the martial hall, 1 battle merit could be exchanged for a 100-year-old ginseng, while 10 battle merit could be exchanged for a low-grade profound rank martial art, and 20 battle merit could be exchanged for a mid-grade profound rank martial art. Lin Xian's 30 battle merits could be exchanged for a high-grade mystic-ranked martial art or a low-grade man-ranked artifact. In the martial hall, if you had enough battle merits, you could even exchange them for spirit-level martial arts. There were also some natural treasures that would definitely attract people. Lin Xian was excited. He was looking forward to this mission. 5 days later, Lin Xian came to the combat martial hall once again. Is everyone here? A majestic figure stood with his back facing the crowd. Reporting to the general, all 16 youths have arrived, a soldier said respectfully. Hua! The majestic figure turned around and looked at the crowd. His gaze was mixed with a great pressure. Everyone who was looked at felt as if they had been electrocuted. A sense of fear rose from the bottom of their hearts. This wasn't intentional. Rather, the years of living on the battlefield made his every move carry an invisible killing intent. In this mission, we must rescue Divine, Dr. Du. General Zheng's voice was sonorous and powerful. Following that, General Zheng began to lay out the battle plan. In fact, it was very simple. General Zheng would lead people to pin down the main firepower of the demonic beasts, and these sect youths would be responsible for rescuing the patient. Once they succeeded, they would immediately retreat. Although it was simple, there couldn't be the slightest mistake in the execution of the plan. Otherwise, not only would they not be able to save the patient, they might even lose their own lives. General Zheng led 7 soldiers as the vanguard. The 16 youths were divided into 4 groups. They would break out from 4 directions and finally meet at the 100 Herb Hall. Everyone was given a shield, a signal flare, and 3 recovery pills. After Lin Xian received these, he set out with the crowd. The group quickly disappeared into the wilderness. Each of the 4 small groups had a 9th-level condensing martial artist as the leader. He was responsible for controlling the entire group. Lin Xian wasn't in the same group as Fan Chong. Instead, he was in a mixed group. The one with the highest cultivation was Lotus Glory Sect's Feng Bufan. His cultivation had reached 9th-level condensing. The remaining 2 were Zhang Hao, a disciple of Lotus Glory Sect. The other was Lu Lan, a disciple of Zixia Sect. Among the remaining 3 groups, there were disciples similar to Fan Chong. In comparison, Lin Xian's group was the weakest. Feng Bufan's cultivation was the highest, so he was temporarily leading the group. Our group is relatively weak, but as long as we are united, I believe we still have a chance, Feng Bufan said. We'll go around the forest. Everyone be careful. After the 4 of them left North Guard City, they entered the forest. Fan Chong's group also took a similar route to them. Feng Bufan, you have to be careful. Don't let some people in the group drag us down. Fan Chong sneered at Lin Xian and then quickly left. Feng Bufan was fine, but the other 2 disciples looked at Lin Xian with strange eyes. It's okay. Let them go first and help us scout the way, Feng Bufan said indifferently. Chapter 95. The group quickly moved through the forest. Lin Xian walked at the front, giving him a warning every time. 2 hours later, the 4 of them arrived at the outskirts of Mountain Overlook City. Lin Xian took out a map, and the 4 of them began studying it. We'll be in Mountain Overlook City if we go further in. There are countless demonic beasts inside, so there's no way to hide. Feng Bufan pointed at an area in the middle of the map. This is where the 100 Herb Hall used to be. We have to break through the encirclement and enter. No wonder it's called Mountain Overlook City. It's actually facing the Taiheng Mountains on 3 sides. Lin Xian saw that the forest was concave on the map. It seemed like they had to choose a direction to break through. Let's go and take a look. Lin Xian put away the map, and the 4 of them quickly rushed over. Soon, the group stopped again, this time without Lin Xian's reminder. The three of them were alarmed by the pressure coming from the front. The demonic aura formed by countless demonic beasts was like an invisible spear that pierced in all directions. It's a pack of crimson flame wolves. Feng Bufan was alarmed. He suppressed his aura to the minimum, afraid of being discovered. Lin Xian stood rooted to the ground. On the surface, he looked like he was deep in thought, but he was actually communicating with Lord Alcohol. The eagle men are on the left, and the ground shell beasts are on the right. Lord Alcohol sensed and told Lin Xian, "Everyone, we have to decide which direction to go." Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "The crimson flame wolves are in front, the eagle men are on the left, and the ground shell beasts are on the right." Feng Bufan laughed bitterly. To be honest, the three of them didn't want to face it, but the reality was that they had to make a choice. Well, listen to our two senior brothers. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan became very obedient after witnessing Lin Xian's power. On the other hand, Lin Xian glanced at Feng Bufan and said, "I don't recommend taking the left. Between the middle and the right, which one do you think is better?" We'll listen to junior brother Lin Xian. Feng Bufan's eyes flashed. He felt that Lin Xian had an answer. As expected, after he finished speaking, Lin Xian quickly said, "Let's go to the right." Compared to the other two, it's easier for the ground shell beast to pass through. Lin Xian's decision was correct because their strength was on the weaker side. Regardless of whether it was facing the agile eagle men or the crimson flame wolves, they had no advantage. On the other hand, the ground shell beast was more focused on defense. If they just wanted to pass through, it would be relatively easy. In a moment, senior brother Feng will be in the front, and I'll be in the back. You two will be on the sides. We'll maintain our formation. When we're halfway there, I'll switch positions with senior brother Feng, Lin Xian said. Right now, he was basically the leader of this small team. The three of them had no objections. They just waited for General Zheng to make his move. Not long after, there was a faint fluctuation of spiritual power in front of him, and there was a rumbling sound. "It's done." The four of them quickly rushed out. With Feng Bufan in the lead and Lin Xian at the back, they appeared in front of the ground shell beast. However, when they truly faced the demonic beast, they were still stunned. There was a black mass of over 100 ground shell beasts crawling in front of them. This demonic beast was about 2 meters long. It had a tail and 4 limbs. Its head was like a lizard's, and its body was covered in thick leather armor with hard, poisonous spikes. Roar, roar, roar. There was a low roar. Over 100 ground shell beasts roared together. It was as if countless thunderbolts were exploding in their ears. Moreover, the demonic aura on their bodies condensed in the void, forming a strong willpower. Fear, murderous intent, bloodthirsty. There were negative emotions affecting everyone. Feng Bufan was fine, but Zhang Hao and Lu Lan were pale, and cold sweat kept dripping down their bodies. Among them, the calmest was Lin Xian. After all, Lin Xian had already comprehended a trace of sword essence. His willpower was abnormally strong. Even if over 100 ground shell beasts joined forces, they would not be able to do anything to Lin Xian. Moreover, the embryonic form of the sword soul had formed in his mind, which made his willpower as strong as steel. "Calm down. Guard your mind," Lin Xian shouted in a low voice. His voice was like a sharp blade cutting off all the negative emotions. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan woke up abruptly and gasped for breath. Thank you, Senior Brother Lin." The two of them were grateful from the bottom of their hearts. In the beginning, the two of them refused to submit to Lin Xian. Later on, they were shocked by his various methods. And now, Lin Xian was actually able to easily rescue the two of them in the face of the terrifying will that was as heavy as a mountain. Now, they had started to worship Lin Xian. Feng Bufan was even more shocked. In such a situation, he could only protect himself, but Lin Xian did not seem to be affected at all. This huge difference made him curious and fearful of Lin Xian once again. On the other side, when the ground shell beasts saw that the four of them were not affected, they were furious and roared even more crazily. In the void, the huge shadow of the ground shell beast formed by demonic aura moved slowly and slapped down with one of its claws. Strong winds blew, and the void trembled. This palm was like a mountain that was pressing down, making it impossible to resist. However, Lin Xian knew that this was only an illusory pressure on the spiritual level. Open, a dazzling sword ray surged out from his body. Behind him, there was a blurry giant sword that pierced through the sky. The shadow of the ground shell beast was torn into countless pieces like a piece of paper. Two golden sword auras flew out from his eyes and shattered the fragments into nothingness. Roar! Hundreds of ground shell beasts trembled and then rushed over crazily. Charge! Lin Xian roared. Suddenly, the four of them rushed over like a sharp sword. Shields! Feng Bufan shouted in front. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan quickly took out their black shields and circulated their spiritual power. A yellow light covered their spiritual power and formed a thick, protective shield. At the front, Feng Bufan wielded a dark green long saber as he charged forward. His moves were bold, and he was incomparably ferocious. Lin Xian was in charge of repelling the ground shell beasts that rushed up, while ensuring the team's speed. He was also accumulating energy. The sky was filled with ground shell beasts, constantly jumped up and crashed into Lin Xian and the others. Golden lightning palm. A golden palm shadow flew out, sending all the demonic beasts near it flying. However, even more demonic beasts rushed out. Zhang Hao and Lu Lan held on tightly to their black shields and crazily channeled their spiritual power. Even so, they could still feel the huge impact from the shields from time to time. Fortunately, Lin Xian was not trying to kill these beasts. He was just trying to force his way through. The whole team advanced quickly. Gradually, Feng Bufan could not hold on any longer. Senior brother Feng, change teams. Lin Xian shouted in time. The two of them moved at the same time. Lin Xian appeared at the front of the team. In the next moment, a dark red sword appeared in his hand. Whirlwinds scattered clouds. Lin Xian used a powerful martial technique. 3 hurricanes flew out in front of him and blew away all the beasts that pounced on him. A few beasts that forced their way forward were pierced through by Lin Xian's sword. Roar, roar! An obviously large ground shell beast pounced forward and formed a spiked ball in the air. It quickly turned towards Lin Xian and the others. The poisonous needles on its back flashed with a dark green light, as if they wanted to take their lives. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.